set? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of November 16th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to start off by congratulating my colleagues, Mary Perella, Ed Stewart, Tim Sweeney, Council-elect Andy Tiska, on a wonderful job with the election results. And I'm going to, for everyone, and we'll get to it in our prerogative sections, but I am going to say thank you to you, the public, for your trust in us. It is impressive, and we appreciate it. I'm also going to say that this is Halsey Herreshoff's last meeting. 34 years of town service on the council as administrator, and this council plans on recognizing that this evening in words and in future in other ways. So that's kind of one of those keep tuned and stay tuned on that. So again, we will have an opportunity later on to say our own piece, but I wanted to say congratulations, nice job. And also, too, is to the administrator, as this moves forward, as we all move forward, whatever end that ends up being, we appreciate and the hard work that you put in. So,
thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Our first item this evening, our first order of business this evening is will be my distinct pleasure to administer the oath of office to our new fire marshal. So if we could please have him come forward. And perhaps the chief would like to introduce the new fire marshal first.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Council Chairman, Councilors, Administrator Texera, for allowing this to be on the agenda for the evening. So I'd like to introduce Rob Ferguson, no stranger to the department. He's been around for about 20 years plus, and he'll continue to serve the town now in his capacity as fire marshal, doing inspections, fire investigations, public education, and everything else that I throw at him. So without further ado, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. All right, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I solemnly swear
I solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
and obey the laws
and obey the laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations,
and the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations,
that I will in all respects
that I will in all respects
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the town of Bristol,
of the town of Bristol.
and will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of fire marshal.
of fire marshal.
You're in.
This is always a action part on whether we're going to draw blood.
Congratulations. Well deserved.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, we have submission of the minutes of October 19th.
Motion to approve?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is our first public hearing this evening. This is for the intoxicating beverage license renewals for 2016 and 2017. You have several additional items that are put to your agenda regarding some problems with non-payment of bills, et cetera. Normally, those things are resolved prior to our issuance of the license, but this is an advertised public hearing.
Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And our first, we have, Lou, do you want to go through these separately, or are these all?
I think the list has been published, Mr. Chairman. You may want to ask if anybody wishes to speak on any one of the licenses. It's probably not necessary to read them through.
Okay. So the public hearing is open. Is there anyone to speak in favor of these three candidates? Is there anyone to speak in?
It's the 50-odd licenses that we're considering.
So when I said three, I meant 50. Is there anyone to speak in favor of those 50, or any of those 50? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to adopt and approve the 2016-2017 intoxicated beverage license renewals and anything contingent thereof that has to be taken care of before any transfers. Let that be part of the record of any state statutes and laws that govern that. I just would like to take a few seconds. Every year, the clerk and I go through this. A liquor license is a commodity that we value along with our business owners and everyone who carries a liquor license in this town. And time again, we have lengthy discussions whenever a liquor license comes before this council. So I would just ask that part of my motion that anyone who has not renewed to our town clerk, because I always say it's not his job to go chasing people, but it is a valued commodity, and I think it's only fair and right of people that come and renew these licenses, because we are business friendly, we look for the public safety, that, Lou, if you could just let us know in a month's time where those applicants stand, because by our charter, there's a section that is viable for fines because of this type of license, and we don't want to do that as a council. We never did, but I just think it's just a public notice to, because we have some, liquor license hearings tonight. So with that motion, that's concluded.
Motion?
Yes.
So I just want to be clear. I'll second your motion, but
It is on.
the transfer, I think you said the transfer was.
Yeah, it's renewals. This is just the renewals.
No, I understand. I'm just
okay.
saying, like, that the debts and so forth, any pending issues have to be clarified before they are transferred or renewed.
That's what I said, contingent
Yeah,
of
yeah.
those.
So there'll be,
Use the transfer.
okay, there'll be contingent on that, okay.
Before
Right,
the
so
transfer.
Lou won't issue the
Contingent before the
license.
transfer, as I
Right,
stated, yes.
right.
So that was the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay. Thank
The next item is a transfer of one of the recently renewed licenses let's see, this is J&Y Incorporated, doing business as Sawa Asian Bistro, 531 Wood Street. Request transfer of their Class B intoxicating beverage license to IFC Incorporated. This is also, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, an advertised public hearing.
So I'm going to open this public hearing. Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, before you do, I believe the solicitor has something to add to to this one because this was part of the consideration previously on this license.
Yeah, I was going to do it once they close, but I can certainly do that now. It just so happens that we're in court this morning on this very issue, and I'm happy to report to you that the court has ordered the immediate transfer of $9,725 to the town from the insurance proceeds that had been placed in the registry of the court, as to the approximate $28,000 that still remains with accumulating interest. The court order is providing that all of the rental income on the property will first come to the town of Bristol until such time as all of that money plus interest has been paid. Once that has been accomplished, the money will then go to the landlord. And so that was all part of this issue on the transfer of the license. This will allow them to go ahead, get their business moving, but at the same time, the rights of the town have been protected.
So without adding too much time to meetings, we're going to take a little extra time on issues like this to just make sure that everybody understands what just happened there. If you're not familiar, it's the property that's on the corner of Franklin Street and Wood Street, and the town had spent money to take down the building that was there after a fire in regards to protect public safety. So what you heard, what I heard the solicitor say, and I think we all heard, was that we were in court to make sure that the town was held whole so we can get our money back for what was done.
Plus interest.
Plus interest. Thank you for clarifying that. So we had a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So what's this council's pleasure?
Make a motion to do the transfer of the Class BV intoxicating beverage license to the Sawa Asian Bistro at 531 Wood Street per, I don't know the document order of our solicitor of that court order and everything attached with that, and all department recommendations through the fire chief, police department, and administration, and all state statutes that govern this.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, we have one additional advertised public hearing. This is for the transfer of the Class A intoxicating beverage license of Viola's Liquor Store Incorporated to Michael S. Brito Jr. for 12th Night Sales Incorporated. And there were several objections that were filed, and all have been satisfied. You also have recommendations provided.
So we're going to open the public hearing. I bet you know what I'm going to say. Is there anyone to speak in favor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is William Dennis. I'm an attorney with offices located here in Bristol. I am here tonight with Herbie Moitozo, who is the principal of the petitioning corporation, Viola's Liquor Store, Inc. That corporation has held this license now for 32 years. I would represent that Mr. Moitozo, and he can certainly speak for himself, but he is in favor of this petition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against?
Motion to close the public hearing.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And I would move that this transfer be approved by the council under the stipulation of all conditions to be met.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Matozo for your years with your establishment. Thank you very much to you and your family, and we wish you the best.
Yeah, I think you've had a very fine business there, and one that has been good for the town and its citizens, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, well, just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I will point out that there are two people that are seated here that were involved in the granting of that license. One seated at the end of the council table, and the other one seated here. So it's been a great relationship.
Full circle.
We will definitely miss Herbie's leadership at that very famous counter. Best of luck, Herbie.
Thanks. Enjoy it.
The next item is item C1. This is ordinance 2016-14. This is the second reading for adoption. The council will recall this is to allow for more accommodating no parking areas on either side of the driveways leading from Benjamin Church Manor.
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, also discussed at your previous meeting with positive recommendations. This is ordinance 2016-15. This is an amendment to the town code to allow for a one parking space, no parking area in the vicinity of, on Wall Street, near the driveway of a business that was impacted by the spot.
This would be second reading?
This is the first reading.
It's just the first. We
First
just heard the petitioner
Well,
last
yeah,
time.
you had to have an ordinance in
The
front
ordinance,
of you.
yeah.
It was just a...
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a request, and the council referred it for an ordinance to be drafted, and this is the first reading.
So I'll make a motion. This constitutes the first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And this was something that the council requested about half a year ago. There was a new ordinance/policy that was put into effect in the spring regarding alcohol use and sale on town property, and there was a desire to have a review, or at least read some information as to how well that particular ordinance was working.
Walter, did you want to speak to this? We certainly want to have the chief, too.
Yes, thank you. Is it on? No, I guess it is. After reviewing for the last 6 months, I guess that we've used this ordinance, I think we've used it twice, and both times went extremely successful, and there was no incidents at all. So far, it really looks like it's going well.
Great.
So I'm continue to be in support of it.
Chief?
I feel the same way Walter does. The two incidents that we were involved, there were no major issues that could be brought forward. However, I think, as we know, this is kind of uncharted water. We need to keep our finger on the pulse. Sure. And from the time that whoever the individual is that comes in, or group that requests to use the property, that we start the dialogue right from the word get-go on what's expected of them and what's going to be tolerated, and if it's not, on how they will be dealt with. But I believe we continue to move forward with it. Someone behind me, you want to?
The Chief DeMello looked like he wanted to share something also.
I did. I just wanted to take a moment to reflect that we've also utilized this for our fire department fundraisers, essentially because that kind of looped us into it, and there really wasn't an out to get around that. So other than the additional cost to the companies during the fundraising effort, it's going well as far as that goes. So no problems, no issues, just the additional cost factor that we...
And with that, Chief, with that footprint, I think the criteria that we took the time on this, as the Recreation Director specified, and to the Chief saying that we can make changes accordingly as we go through the process, because, like you said, it could evolve to some other things or areas, and such as those areas of the umbrella under the town, different riders that might come into play. So we might look into those avenues. I know Walter and I had talked about that, of different events. So it's just something, just glad to see it's working good.
So to the Chief's point, and to all of our wanting, the first line of this ordinance says the town of Bristol does not encourage public consumption of alcohol on town property or private property. The point behind this ordinance was not to encourage it, as it clearly states that. It's to have a clear guideline on if it's appropriate, and if this council deems it appropriate, and recommendations say that we should approve it, then we will say yes. So.
I'd just like to comment that we've all gone to the festivals where we've seen it. We've kicked the tires on this ordinance, and it's proven to have a nice balance between fun and making sure we're keeping the town safe.
Yeah.
So I'm for it.
So Lou, a receive and file on this?
Receive and file is fine unless the council wants to take other action, but that would be fine.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item D2. This is the request of Cheng Lang Yu, the new owner of DBA the new owner of Sawa Asian Bistro, 531 Wood Street, request a vittling license. This was continued from your previous meeting.
Motion to approve the vittling license.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next would be the Sunday sales license renewals for package stores for 2016-2017. That's item E2.
Motion to approve the Sunday sales for 2016-2017.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next is item E3. This is the vittling license renewals. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator, fire chief, chief of police, and the Department of Water Pollution Control.
Motion to approve the 2016-17 victim license renewals with all the conditions of the fire chief and administration attached with it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item E4. This is the additional hours licenses for 2016-2017. You have the recommendation provided by the town administrator and fire chief and chief of, I don't think we have chief of police on that one. We do, but it didn't, it may not have met the agenda, but I believe that the chief is recommending approval. Is that correct? Yeah.
Motion to approve the additional hours license.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is item E5, the amusement devices license renewals. You have recommendation of the chief of police to approve with conditions.
Motion to approve the amusement devices licenses for 2016-2017.
Second.
And that approval would include those conditions?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, in this renewal section, we have the holiday sales license renewals for 2016-2017. You have recommendations to approve from the town administrator, fire chief, and chief of police.
Motion to approve the holiday sales license renewals 2016-17 with all the recommendations by the administration, fire chief, and police chief.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the petition of Matthew Caldereso Jr., 12 Bay Street, request council consideration for removal of an accessible parking space at 33 Oliver Street. This is the second reading. It's also item F1.
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the petition of Mark Goudreau, 26 Collins Street, request for a curb cut.
Mr. Chairman, I had spoken to the Director of Public Works on this matter. He's not aware of this and how it was presented to us, so if I could just have him elaborate before the council on this item.
Director McBride, would you mind sharing? We're speaking of Mark Goudreau, 26 Collins Street, request for a curb cut.
Yeah, I had never received this information for review to give you an accurate assessment at this point.
To remind everyone, we put curb cuts to our consent agenda, meaning it didn't require discussion if there was an approval. In this instance, we don't have a denial or approval, I suppose, in this instance, right? So it would seem appropriate that we continue this to our next scheduled meeting and look for and it may end up being in the consent agenda at that point.
Just quickly looking at what is being proposed, I may have a minor issue with it, but I can certainly work through that and get back to you.
I can hear Vice Chairman Sweeney leaning towards a way of, that Is it possible that that minor item, we could do a provisional approval? Is it a minor item?
I would
Can
probably
you talk to us about
write
that?
it up saying that these would be my recommendations for approval and such that, I don't think it will hold it up, if you're asking me that question.
I guess what I'm asking is that if you were to do that, and obviously the applicant has the opportunity to come back in front of us if they didn't agree with your recommendations.
They certainly could come back, obviously. The issue that I have, just quickly looking at this and not having done a detailed site assessment, is the request for a cobblestone apron. What I don't think is a good idea is to apply these cobblestones adjacent to the street. And the reason for that is they're subject to damage by plows, and I don't want homeowners to come back and say, you damaged my nice cobblestone entranceway, and yet the town has to turn around and try to repair those. So we can certainly work something out, but I don't think that's the right thing to do, is run those cobblestones right up against the apron of the street.
I don't think there should be a provisional then, because that's what he's asking for, like specifically the cobblestone apron. And I think we should know exactly what he wants to do and if he'll accept another alternate plan.
Right. And again, I haven't had an opportunity to look at it at all, and certainly, discussion with the homeowner as well, is always a prudent thing to do before we come back. So I think we've got enough time if we bring it to the council at the next meeting. And
I'll make a motion to refer this item to the DPW to handle and to work with the homeowner and to continue this to the December 7th?
Actually, no, it would be our January, our first scheduled January meeting.
Our January.
We could possibly schedule a December meeting. There has been a little talk about that. It may be limited, but we'll have to talk about
Our
that.
next scheduled meeting, normal scheduled meeting?
After the 7th is what he said.
After, yeah.
Well, right, because we could possibly have a meeting we could still have one in December.
Right.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Just remind everybody, our
2 weeks
December
after.
7th is our first meeting.
Just to alleviate.
Reorganization.
Reorganizational meeting.
Yeah, it may be prudent to do that if the council is available, to discuss it with you on the 7th.
I think we're all in favor of that. So
Yeah.
maybe, to our next, I agreed with
To
you.
our next meeting in December.
To be determined.
To be determined.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
To you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the item F3. This is the request of the Explore Bristol/Bristol Merchants Association request to hold scheduled events in the downtown area and for support of the Snowflake Raffle event. You have the recommendation provided by the town administrator and chief of police to approve with certain conditions.
I think this is an absolutely wonderful event. I think it brings a lot of focus to our downtown and then a lot of focus to Bristol in general. I'm a big proponent of it.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. Full support. Thank the BMA for doing this, along with presenting to us the dates and just to advertise for the Snowflake raffle, which is a success all the time. That starts at 4 p.m., and that would be on December 18th, which is a Sunday. And I make a motion that we approve the submission with all the conditions met by the Police Department administration.
I'll second the motion and just encourage all the residents to shop local this year.
Well, also, the holiday preview is actually this weekend, the 18th and the 19th, so it's hard to
Yes.
believe, but it is coming up quickly, so it's,
Yeah.
so this Friday and Saturday, Friday evening and Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is correspondence from Ben Luke, operating manager of Bristol Buffet, requests council consideration to create a Class BV liquor license for the premises located at 180 Mount Hope Avenue. The establishment currently has a limited license.
So this would have to be a public hearing, am I correct?
Well, you'd have to, first of all, determine whether or not you want to go forward. You'd have to consider an ordinance for creating the license because there is not one available, and then there would have to be a public hearing for the granting of that license.
So it'll be
Chief.
27 to 28 for BV licenses, because are we at 27 right now?
I believe that's where we are, yeah.
Okay.
Chief, have we had any issues with this location before we...
No, not at all. With the current license, there's been none.
Great.
I believe the applicant did specify he would come at a later time before the council, and one of the conditions that I know my colleagues had was the public safety and also monitoring, the business with a BV Limited. Can you just expand? I know we hired 4 more officers for personnel that are on the beat right now, so I know that was one of the concerns, and the other concern Vice Chairman had about, if they had any violations since they opened.
Right. The 4 officers, as you know, they're probationary officers, so we're still behind the 8 ball. We're in the process of hiring some more officers. As I explained to you, that's a year's cycle before we can fill in with those officers. But my question to you, Council, would be, where are we going to stop with the licenses? And is it going to be a week from now, somebody going to come in and we're going to ask for a 29, 30, 31? We're going to continue to climb? Because I only have a limited amount of officers for a limited amount of liquor establishments. So that's the question I would ask.
Well, that's something that I was going to myself bring up. We've progressed very much from a small number of licenses to now a substantial number, and I think the council in the future needs to think about what is on the overall picture for the town citizens the right thing to do. Our neighboring town of Barrington just went from 0 to a few. Maybe the solicitor would comment on that. But I think that there needs to be some restraint so that we don't start having a series of troubles or an overburdening of lower authority.
Well, my view on this license, and I'm not usually a fan of licenses, but I don't disagree that we need to figure out like an endpoint to put a moratorium. We got ourselves down this bad sort of rabbit hole because everybody comes in and they all want to be competitive, and then you're not business friendly because they can sell alcohol and they get the business and the neighbor doesn't, and we've got ourselves in a quandary. However, in this particular case, I mean, this restaurant owner who had a 30-year history without problems in the neighboring town came looking for this license from the beginning. He got pushed back a good 6 or 8 months with no license at all, then got a BV limited license, and now he's asking for a full license. And what he has expressed to me is that as he's getting into the spring season with the ability to have small parties, showers, things like that, that people are opting not to use his establishment because of the liquor license issue. Now, one of the issues, I totally respect the chief's view on the officers that he needs to maintain order, but my understanding over the years is the issue has never been about the restaurants per se. It's about other establishments, particularly those establishments that are open till 1 o'clock in the morning and, downtown and very, very busy. I know how busy you are at that. I don't think this fits into that problem, at least as far as well, you never know with anybody. You never know with any restaurant. But I just don't think, and I've said this many times before, I don't think this restaurant owner has been treated fairly the way everybody else has been treated for his establishment since he came here. And there were various reasons for that, some valid, some not. But I do think it's been somewhat discriminatory, and I don't mean that in any kind of blatant way. I just feel that it's just not fair. And it bothers me that, with all frankness, I'll say it again, I've said this before as well. It bothers me that when it's a downtown business establishment, that we have members of the community, members who frequent many of these restaurants, members of our own Economic Development Commission who are standing up saying we really need to support this business because we want to be business friendly, it's economic development, et cetera, et cetera. And all through this gentleman's struggles, not one single person has come from the business community to advocate for him. And I think it's very, very unfair. And if we're going to say that alcohol, which I don't agree with, is a way to generate business and be in economic development, then you've got to be fair across the board, and we have not been in this case. So, that's been my position right along on this. And it continues to be my position.
I just wanted to comment that I'm in support of increasing the number of licenses for Bristol Buffet, and I just want to remind my colleagues that we do have the power to flip the switch if there is a problem. So we can pull a liquor license at any time if there is a problem. So I think we should consider that and consider the person in the restaurant and what their reputation is all about. So,
Well, I was just going to state, just as Councilwoman Perella said, that public safety is paramount. There was a liquor license at that establishment besides the building before, where we were at 28. I think the maximum, if the clerk would remind me, I haven't been on this council long enough, is up to 30 of BV licenses at one time. So we did scale back. I think the balance is a key on how many do you have throughout your town in comparison with other municipalities and all the factors that have been stated. My concern is, has the business owner been a constructive piece with his business? It's been stated here tonight that there hasn't been any trouble, and I'm going to be in support of having a public hearing for this also.
I will just say, to the other question of when does this end? We had a workshop I don't remember if it was the summer, early fall, whenever it was. I don't think we got to the questions, because in Bristol, these aren't really like property rights, I believe, and I think I would need our solicitor to write something up, or to, if we have another workshop on this. I'm not sure that we ask the right questions. In other communities, when you're going to sell a business, for example, don't they go with they can promote it with their liquor license that they have it, right? They still have to transfer it.
Absolutely.
In theory, ours comes back to us, in theory.
Well, no, that's the case everywhere. In every community, the license comes back until such time as you decide to transfer it. In every community, you have the ability to cap the number of licenses that you give out, but you can change that cap if the council decides to change that cap. In terms of the property right, the license only becomes a property right once you own it, once it's issued. Then it's a property right. But if you don't have one to begin with, obviously, that whole legal doctrine doesn't apply.
So I'd like to make a motion to increase the BV alcohol beverage licenses for the Bristol Buffet.
So
That would be to refer to the solicitor for drafting the ordinance. So at your next meeting, we'll go through first reading, second reading, et cetera.
So moved.
Second.
there's a motion and a second, and there's a bit of discussion, and part of it will be, I would like to, maybe Chief, you could take a look, and also Mr. Solicitor, you could take a look at our similar communities in the area, which would include, like we do when we're talking about the university towns, whether Narragansett, East Greenwich. And then we don't have to exclude Massachusetts. I mean, there are other small communities, whatever you deem as appropriate. And maybe we can get a guide. Maybe we're good or bad by comparison. See what else is out there. Look at the department size, if they have a university in town, seaside community, destination town, those kind of things. So to do a fair comparison and maybe come back at our next and share what you found and see how we compare to other communities.
Are you talking about in terms of the number, all those questions and the number of liquor licenses, and how about the process that they use? Do they have a cap or don't they? Or do they create them as needed?
And also, is the council the board of liquor license commissioners versus other cities and towns might have their own board and a different process of how they treat their liquor licenses also?
What they said. I'm kidding. But those are great points.
Ask all the questions if you're going to...
But Chief, is the overarching issue resources? Is it just making sure?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
as
what
you know,
do.
what I said to you, we have 4 officers that are probationary officers. Right. We have limited access to what they can do and how they're utilized. I think I gave you some numbers similar to that when you asked for the outdoor dining, and we broke it down to communities that are comparable to us. I will give you that, but I'm still going to be asking from this point in, I'm going to be honest with you, for us to commit to a number. because the police department can change. I can lose 2 or 3 officers just because they decide they're going to pack up and move to another department, and it puts us behind the 8 ball. And I know what Mary's saying, and I don't have a problem, but we don't know what's going to happen with a restaurant when you give them a full liquor license. You have someone coming before you tonight, a pizza place, beer and wine, that's not a problem. But when you start having hot alcohol and scorpion bowls for college kids or things, that becomes a concern to the police department.
I'm not a fan, and I don't think anybody is. We don't have to wait till there's a problem to make a change. So I'd like to take this next step, and I don't want to wait to have one more and then we had a problem. So I'd like to act accordingly. So if we could find out where we are with other communities, at least we are an individual community and we'll make our own decisions. That being said, it's nice to know what others are doing and if we're way out of the realm or in that realm.
Right, I agree. We need to do our due diligence, but again, paramount to everything is the public safety, and we don't need people leaving places intoxicated and not having police to man the streets to make sure that we don't have a increase in drunk drivers, someone being hit by a vehicle, a pedestrian, or anything like that. That's our goal, is to keep everyone safe.
Of course.
It is everybody's, it is ours too, and I know that you've mentioned the Scorpion Bowl before, and my understanding is that this owner does not, he said that the way these drinks go, they've changed. I don't really go to Chinese restaurants that often, so I don't really know, but that's not really what they do. I mean, you can limit what you can sell. I mean, you know, we put all kinds of restrictions. I don't think that they do that anymore, and I don't think that his clientele is very much of the college kids, from what I understand either. So I mean, you can say you're not going to do any kind of drinks that is for multiple people. I mean, or however that works. I mean, I know that's an issue that's been raised before, Chief. With
Right,
all due
and
respect.
I only stated the Scorpion Bowl because it's a Chinese restaurant. I don't go to many Chinese restaurants myself, but I know that's what they serve. But it wouldn't make a difference if it was that or 5 gin and tonics. You know, either way, somebody's going to be intoxicated and shouldn't be behind the wheel of a vehicle.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I agree. Is there any other discussion? So there's a motion and a second to refer to the solicitor to draft an ordinance for an additional full liquor license. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is correspondence from David E. Barboza, 92 Constitution Street, and others, requesting council consideration for residential parking zone on Constitution Street between High and Wood Streets.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council.
Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, I guess congratulations are certainly in order to you, Nathan and Ed and Mary and Tim. Very well deserved that you've been...
And if I may, I actually forgot to say, congratulations, Mr. Clerk, too. You didn't have a race, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get a congratulations.
It was a race nonetheless.
That's right.
That's right.
Fair enough.
That's right, Nathan, he was on my list.
Yeah.
And certainly well deserved, and also to thank Halsey for his many years of service to the town of Bristol that have not only impacted and influenced the fabric of our town, and there's an old saying that, you know, leaving, the mark of a good man is leaving. In this case, politics, the better place than which he found it. So thank you, Halsey, for all that you've done, and certainly to Tony for his service to the town for the last 6 years, and to recognize our town administrator-elect, Steve Contenti, who's here tonight, as well as my former colleague in government, Kathy Bazinet, that I had the pleasure of serving with for a number of years on the council. Well, what brings me here tonight is that I, on behalf of my neighborhood, which is east of High Street and west of Wood Street, very simply put, Mary and members of the council, that we have not only been discovered, but we have been invaded. And I've lived there for 17 years, and this has been a horrendous year in our neighborhood. High Street west to Hope Street, all of the streets surrounding us to Hope Street down to Thames Street are all limited parking, either 2 hours or 2 hours overnight with restrictions. And when I say invaded, we have had cars coming now for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And basically they've been roosting there for most of the summer. I had one car in front of my house, which believe it or not, parked in front of the tree, taking up 2 parking spaces for 3 weeks. So their car was nice and cool, but once again, inconveniencing my neighbors from having parking places. I am fortunate. I have off-street parking, as you can see from the petition that you have in front of you. And I have 11 more signatures for you that are coming tonight, which I will present to the clerk, and I have more coming after that. Many houses on my street do not have off-street parking. It's almost like church. I can go home every night and tell who's going to be parked in front of my house, who's going to be across the street. And it's basically become an inconvenience. People who live in that neighborhood cannot come and park because there's 3, 4, 5, 6 cars that are there. And as I say, when they're there for weeks at a time, it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They come back, and I don't mean to discriminate against Prudence Island, but these are Prudence Island people. I have, in the 17 years that I've lived there, seen cars pulling up with people, especially those with little kids running late for the ferry. I've given them a ride down to the ferry because they come on a Friday, they leave on a Sunday. But to be there for weeks on end is certainly, it's an inconvenience. It's not fair. It's also impacting the business at the corner. There is a dry cleaner at the corner. I have people who have come by my house to drop off their dry cleaning and have had to park down on Wood Street to walk up to the dry cleaner. Because between the people in the neighborhood who are trying to park and these other cars that have been roosting there for half the summer, it's certainly not fair. So I think in the realm of fairness, to do something that would certainly solve the problem for the neighborhood, as well as to be fair for some of these people who may want to park there for various reasons, is to limit it to no overnight parking without a residential permit. I've been to just about every house on the street, with the exception of some, because I've been away a bit. And they are all in favor of this because everybody is impacted, whether you live close to Constitution and High Street or you live close to Constitution and Wood Street. Everybody is having the same problem. So I'd ask the council to please consider granting this petition to limit it to no overnight parking without a residential permit.
Mr. Clerk and Mr. Solicitor, if this council decided that we wanted to take the next step to do that, what's the process? Also, too, I would imagine there's signage and the cost involved with all of that, correct? So can you walk us through?
First step would be to adopt an ordinance to encompass the areas where you would have the permits required. Once the ordinance was adopted, then you could go forward with the street signs.
I understand your concerns. As a town, we have a lot of events. Certainly, we don't want cars, as you specified here tonight, just dwelling overnight for weeks at a time. We're talking from High Street to Wood Street in the perimeter. If you were to go to Thames, Constitution to Franklin, Independence Park, one of my concerns would be is I know from High Street all the way to Thames, there's proper signage. The only signage of no overnight parking, period, is on State Street from High to Wood in front of Mount Carmel, being a church. I know Church Street from High to Wood has 2-hour, 5 to 7 a.m., except with resident sticker. The reason why I'm wondering if we can solve the problem of your concern is by doing the 2-hour, except with resident sticker, they can stay 5 to 7 in the morning, being that we have people coming in for events, putting, the exclusivity and probably, to be with the other conformity of the other signs on that street of the 2-hour, except with resident sticker. And if we're going to draft an ordinance, and our solicitor has to do that, I know a cost of signage is coming up, but is there going to be other concerns? I know Franklin, Bradford, and Union, I don't think we have to go that far south to Union, but, will they come forward and ask for the same specificity that you're going through? If we can all do it all at once, that's just something I'm putting out to my colleagues because of the area of parking of a lot of people coming into Bristol now, that it goes all the way up to Wood Street, as you just mentioned.
Sure.
So-
And I'm sure whatever you decided to sort of stem this problem would certainly be amenable to the people in the neighborhood. The situation also is you cannot park on Wood Street between Mount Hope Avenue and State Street because of the churches. They were having the same problem. What it is, and once again, I don't mean to be discriminatory, but what this is are Prudence Island people who do not want to pay for parking and are looking for a convenient place to park. Constitution Street at High Street to Wood Street is very convenient because you only have to walk down 2.5 blocks and walk over 2.5 blocks, and you're where you want to be, and you're not paying $400 a season for parking. So whatever you can do to stem the fact that these cars are roosting there for weeks at a time would certainly be appreciated. I thought that the easiest thing to be would be no overnight parking, which certainly addresses your concern as well. Let people come during the day, let them come, let them go, but don't be leaving your cars there for weeks at a time.
I do think that the issue needs to be, whatever it is, I think Ed's point is that they need to be consistent, because on High Street, I believe it is only the 2-hour limit, and it is there for this very reason, because that's where everybody's parking, along High Street, State Street, Court Street, Church Street. And so because of that limit, then the churches were having an issue. It went up to Wood. And so now people are kind of like pushed out more to to Constitution. And if it goes on Constitution, they'll be pushed to Union, because they're going to find wherever they can to park. And it is very unfair to the residents, because most people in downtown, or at least a good 50-60%, don't have off-street parking. And even without Prudence Island, in certain areas, it's a challenge.
Sure.
I had somebody park in front of my house for 36 hours, not move their car at all, and I had a ton of groceries right smack my pathway just the other day.
Sure. And what also is happening, Mary, is
It's
you
crazy.
have families that are coming, because there's 2 cars in particular with a gentleman and a woman. They bring 2 cars and they leave. And, I think what's happened is they have spread the word,
Right.
to other people. Hey, this is a great place to park. You're not spending $400 to park for a season. Park up, and you look at all these cars. There's not one of them that has a Rhode Island plate.
David,
They're
I'm
all
in agreement.
Massachusetts plates.
I'm in agreement with you. I'm
I
just
know
saying
that.
that whatever the signage is that we already have is what it should be for your area.
Sure.
And if we need to move it to say, now they're going to move to Union, and how much further should we go, and do it all at once? I think that was your point. Then we should just make
Sure.
that determination.
As I said, whatever you can do to address the
So
problem,
why don't we do
certainly
this?
appreciate it.
How about if we refer this to the sign committee? I was going to say to the administrator and the police chief, and maybe you can come back to us with a recommendation, keeping in mind the concerns that have already been expressed, is that certainly we don't want to move the problem from one street to the next. I think I've heard that a few times. I haven't heard anybody object to considering such a thing, meaning making it have signage and stickers to keep overnighters from doing that.
And I think it's also the point of whether it goes in, I'm sure it does, like Bradford and Franklin, I'm sure it goes to that whole area, if people will keep getting moved down. Is it in front of do you have the signage, Linda, in front of your house yet?
No, there's no signage, but I wanted to tell David, he's my around-the-corner neighbor, and
Yeah.
I just wanted
You need to,
support
if you could come up to the mic.
Excuse me. My name is Linda Aruda, and
Welcome.
we live at 159 High Street, which is just around the corner from David. And the interesting thing is, I'll sign your petition. I didn't know that he had a petition, but one of the things that we've been noticing is the 36-hour parking. Listen, it's a public street, and I certainly encourage people to park on the street. But there are 36, 48, there are all kinds of parking that's going on in that neighborhood. And the next, I applaud you, you need to look at Union, because it keeps getting pushed down. So I'm on the west side of High Street, and you're on the east there. But the parking issue really needs to be looked at. And Bob was about to call the police to ask if this car was registered. This one happened to be from Rhode Island. But it's not so much in the summer piece as you see, but I have seen a tremendous increase in people coming to park on High Street. I don't have any claim, it's a public street, but I'm thinking, how come these cars are coming and staying, and are they going all to Prudence? I just think that, I had a conversation with a policeman, very, very nice Sergeant St. Pierre, about something else that I've been concerned about during the evening hours, and he said, you know what, High Street is pretty calm. They don't really, people will go and park there because they think it's okay.
Right.
So I said, well, it is okay to park there, but these cars don't need to stay there for days and days and days. So I applaud David, but I also applaud you. I think you're on the right track there. I think you need to get something going that's really tight and consistent, but try to include Union Street,
Yeah.
right?
Chief?
That's a huge problem. Yeah.
I think I hear your concerns. We're looking for uniformity from signage to enforcement, and that always helps and works with the police department's part of it. So I would ask that you give us a couple of weeks to look at the out-of-state plates. I will also tell you, and I'm not saying the ones that David may be speaking about, but as we know, the college is back.
Yes.
So there are Massachusetts, there are Connecticut and New York plates, and some of them look close, so you got to take a look to make sure that we're identifying where those vehicles are from. And as we know, college kid, not to pick on them, but they'll pull in, find a spot, and start riding around with their buddies for 2 or 3 days, and that car is there. If there's a concern about a vehicle that's parked somewhere, doesn't look right or whatever, please give us a call. I mean, it happens once in a while. There's a stolen vehicle. Somebody will take a vehicle for a joyride and park it in front of the house until somebody calls it in, or a very proactive police officer comes across and runs a registration. We won't know it's stolen. So if it's there, give us a call. I hear your concerns. Let's look at this. And I agree that we need to go outside, because obviously this is something that's grown legs. And before we know it, this will be down towards the Ferry, parking on some of those side streets. We don't want that either. So let's address this. Let's do this the right way. Give us a little bit of time, and I'll get back to you with a report and figure out the best way of dealing with this. And also maybe just trying to reach out and educate some of these people that, we don't mind them coming to our town, but they've created a problem if they're going to take over parking spots that are really identified for the residents of our community. Okay?
So, Chief, are you going to look at all the streets and make sure the whole block there?
Yes, I will. We're going to look at
great.
all the way to, let's go down to Wally Street, so we don't leave anything out. And maybe we'll speak with somebody from the Prudence Ferry or somewhere in that area, see if we can educate before we enforce.
I've heard that before.
Okay?
And Greg, I just had a quick question. Thanks, Greg. I just had a quick question on the Prudence Island residents that are heading over there. Is there any way we can sort of communicate areas where they should be parking and try to educate as well? Because I understand David's concern. What can we do, and is there...
I'll speak to the powers that be over there and let them know where they can park and not park. We have this discussion all the time. Once our lot's filled up, they go to the public lot across the street from Robin Rugg. A lot of it's just day parking right now. But there's more and more residents living over there permanently. And we have a waiting list right now on permanent spots. We've got 6 or 7 people on that list now for the $850 spots that we charge them up here. So there's more and more residents that are permanent. So they're looking for a place to park, and once they find a niche, they gravitate toward it quick, and that's where they go. But I'll talk to them, and once we get the guidelines and the basis down, we'll put it on our website, on the Harbor Master website, because everybody defers to that for parking downtown for the ferry, and I'll get them to put it on their website as well.
Great.
Just
Perfect.
to try to.
Well, I certainly thank the chief and the council, but Tim, you have to remember one thing. A legal parking place is a legal parking place. So if you're going to educate people and say where you can park and where you can't park, it has to be signage. because anybody has the right to park any place in a legal parking place. What we're trying to do and identify the fact that on our street, we know where these cars are going. We need the legality behind us to make sure that it would be residents. So thank you, Chief, and thank you, Council.
Well, thank you for making us aware of the situation.
So we can have a motion to refer this to the Administrator and the Chief?
So moved.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is correspondence from Betty Walpole of the East Bay Chamber of Commerce, requests council support of Small Business Saturday effort, which is November 26th.
Welcome.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
These are awesome.
Presents from the East Bay Chamber.
Oh, neat. Shop small.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great.
You're welcome, and we hope to see you all out on Shop Small Saturday. The Chamber, once again this year, in support of local businesses, is doing our 3-2-1. 3 towns, 2 trolleys, 1 day. So we have brought the 3 merchant associations together, and we are doing this for all 3 towns on that 1 day, on Shop Small Saturday. And we would like, once again, we requested some financial help from all 3 towns, and all 3 did last year, and we're hoping you will support us again this year. Support the businesses.
Mr. Clerk, at what level did we support last year? Do you recall?
I'm sorry, I don't recall. But
500.
You recall?
And that's what we asked for. I recall, just
or something like that.
What's very exact?
Yeah.
This, I'm in support. It's
Yes.
just we know we have a new regimen that we go through community development. I think this would be separate and apart out of a different account of contingency.
Well, it would be up to the council if it wished for it to come from contingency. That would be appropriate if it wished to do so.
Julie, you have enough in contingency?
I would just make a motion that we approve
Yes.
$500 from
Okay.
council contingency to support the, I believe I read in here, it's to support the trolleys for Small Business Saturday.
Yes.
I was just looking for options
That's
of
my
where the
motion.
money was going to come from. I was in support of it.
I thought you were writing the check, no?
How come everyone always asks me? I was going to advertise for you that the cost of the trolley and for that day is 0. So that's why everyone should be taking advantage of this wonderful opportunity to shop local, not only for that, but just to support our local businesses. And we thank the East Bay Chamber and all our groups that, our support structure for our businesses and our communities. So, thank you.
I'll second the motion, and I think it's a great event.
We also will be having Santa and gift wrapping stations.
Nice.
For your convenience.
So if I'm a resident, and
Yes.
I am, and I want to use the trolley, how do I do that?
All you need to do is go to our website, eastbaychamberri.org.
I didn't hear you, Betty. What was that?
eastbaychamberri.org/Holiday Express, and all the stops where they'll be picking up and dropping off in all 3 towns will be there.
And the date of this is November 26th,
Yes,
right after
it is.
Thanksgiving.
Yes.
From 10 to 5. And you get a passport to savings?
Yes, that is new this year. In the past, Barrington has done one. This year, the East Bay Chamber took it over. We have this Passport to Savings, which has coupons from all 3 towns from their businesses that can be redeemed, most of them right through the holiday.
Where can you get that if you don't go on the trolley?
These passports are available at all 42 businesses that have their coupon in here. And we'll be passing those out on November 21st. And they'll also be available at the Chamber office, Town Hall, public libraries. They'll be in Portsmouth, Swansea, Seekonk, Barrington, Warren. If you can think of a place and I haven't named it, let me know.
And when will they be out? So if you want to plan your shopping excursion?
The 21st.
The 21st, okay.
But I
feel
wouldn't
like
go
you were a
looking for them
plant
until the
here.
22nd.
The 21st, okay, thank you.
So November 26th, you can get on the trolley and go
Yes.
around and
And it's
enjoy
going to
some
be a lot
holiday
of fun
shopping.
because, you're just talking about parking. And I think
have to worry
sometimes one of the hesitancies of driving to a downtown to do some shopping is, I got to brave the traffic. So this takes that stress completely off your plate. Just park once in a legal parking spot. And then hop on the trolley and take it all.
We
the way-
haven't approved the 500 yet, so you might,
I heard a second.
Legal spot.
I would just like to acknowledge and congratulate Betty Walpole. She was elected the new director of the East Bay Chamber of Commerce. So while you're in front of us, congratulations once again.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And congratulations to all of you.
So there's a motion and a second to support this and also to support it with a $500 donation coming out of council contingency. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item F7. This is the petition of Mary Garcia, 70 Oliver Street. Request council consideration for removal of an accessible parking space located at 72 Oliver Street. And you have recommendations from the Town Administrator, Director of Public Works, and Chief of Police, all to deny the petition.
Motion to deny upon all those recommendations.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just as this was not submitted by the resident themselves, this was submitted by a neighbor? Okay, with good intentions, obviously, but it just,
Well, I think it's-
we need to make sure the resident
I
is
think
aware.
it's a fair
It's still being used.
point to make, so we ought to probably continue this and ask the administrator to contact the residents to see.
Well, they did, the police department did.
We
It's in
did.
their
The long and the
report.
short is it's still being utilized.
Well, therefore, we should just deny it.
Right, that's correct.
Well, I'll change the motion to deny.
Or I could do that.
So we have a motion and a second to deny. Is there any other discussion? All in favor to deny?
Aye.
Any opposed? I know it's a strange one, so.
The next item is item F8. This is correspondence from Marie Natman, the Board Chair of Bristol Theater Company, on behalf of Reynolds Arts and Wellness Group, request to allow a food truck at the holiday open house event on December 3rd. You have recommendation from the Chief of Police to approve with certain conditions.
Marie is here. I can see her in the audience. That was code for come on up and tell us a little bit.
I am here. Last year we did this. It was approved. We had no issues. We had the Z food truck at our event. It's an open house for Reynolds and Byfield Arts Community. It gets people in the building. When they come up from the lighting ceremony, they gravitate toward the truck and come in. This year we have on board, if approved, the Frisky Fries truck, which is all the rage right now. So we're hoping to get approval again.
I'll make a motion to approve on December 3rd that the Frisky Fries truck, with the hours specified during the open house of rental school, be permitted.
Second motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is the night of the grand illumination.
It is, yes.
December 3rd.
Yep,
so.
it is. Hope to see you there. Thanks.
The 4th, isn't it? Isn't it the 4th?
It's a sad day.
Oh, they're doing it Saturday, also? The grand illumination?
They've moved it to Saturday now.
Oh, good, that's good. I like that.
You've been doing it too long. This was, they got the nuances. The next item is the petition of Amanda Avadisian for Classic Pizza and Grill. Request council consideration to create a Class BV limited intoxicating beverage license for the premises located at 349 Metacom Avenue.
I'll make a motion to approve the BV limited liquor license.
So that would be again to refer
to the
solicitor to draft an ordinance.
To draft the
Can I
ordinance.
just ask a question about that? If we go with the other liquor license for the Bristol
Full.
Buffet, wouldn't that free up the limited
It
license?
would.
So we would need to create
So
one.
he wouldn't, if you do the other, you wouldn't have to
Right.
amend that.
So
But
should there be some kind of motion that would say that, assume if there is no approval on the first one, then we would potentially create one?
Yeah, so what I would do to
Draft both.
address both, and then when we get to the meeting, we'll simply amend it at that point.
Okay.
Right. But this is beer and wine only limited.
Yes, absolutely,
I'm
Diane.
sorry to interrupt you, but
Not at all.
if this is the location that where I'm recalling it to be on Medicum Avenue.
Classic Pizza.
Classic Pizza.
Yep.
I believe that's in a limited business zone and a liquor license.
It's not allowed?
It's not, it's a special use permit.
So he'd have to go, she would have to go first to zoning.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity.
So we need-
So the next step for this applicant is to go in front of zoning?
Okay.
Didn't there used to be a license in that property
Well, that's what I'm
before?
wondering, is it the one, I have to check.
No, they were on
the
Medicom.
license was in their
Farms.
previous.
No, he had one that he was going to open another
It never-
restaurant.
I don't
He
think it ever got
picked
that
up.
far.
I thought that we had granted it and they never used it.
Yeah.
So this is the relatively newer building that
Right.
is now.
Right. Yeah, and I guess this is really the appropriate first step, because there's no reason to go to zoning if there was no possibility of the license. Okay, so.
So I can draft the amendment, and then we can continue that when we get to that point. If zoning has not yet ruled out, we'll just continue.
Yeah, and the license could be nearly ready.
Right.
Because it does have to go 2 readings.
Everybody all right with that?
So,
So we have a motion to refer to the solicitor, but we don't have a second yet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
I'm
opposed?
sorry, Mr. Stewart, that was your motion, I think. Did you second
So I
too?
believe it was
Was it Mr. Sweeney?
Mr. Sweeney.
Oh, I'm
Vice
sorry.
Chair, and then I seconded.
There- Too many S's. We need to, need to
Yes,
change that.
sir.
As long as the S's.
Yeah, okay. The next item is the appointment section. First is the Economic Development Commission with term to expire September 2019. Ethan M. Tucker, 231 Wood Street, formerly a member of the commission, would like to be reconsidered for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint Ethan Tucker with expiration 2019 on the Economic Development Commission.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining on that.
Okay, the next is the Zoning Board of Review. Stephen Hudak, 70 Franklin Street, currently serving, has tendered his resignation.
Motion to receive and file, accept the resignation of Mr. Hudak, and of course send him a thank you for his service. And at that time, I would like to elevate Mr. Charles Burke from first alternate to full-time status on the zoning board.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is the Zoning Board of Review alternate to fill unexpired term to expire in March 2017. And I'm not sure about Mr. Burke's term.
Says
He
it on
was-
here. Oh,
yeah,
it says
is it-
March 17.
Are they both March 17?
Yeah, they both say
Okay,
March 17.
so they would be for March 17. So there are now 2 unexpired terms to expire in March 2017. You have 2 applicants, Donald S. Kern of 32 Defiance Avenue, who has interest in receiving that appointment, and also Derek N. Tipton, 10 Dixon Avenue.
I would move that we appoint Mr. Kern as the first alternate and Mr. Timpton as the second alternate.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, Historic District Commission, auxiliary member to fill an unexpired term to expire in July 2019. You have the application of Christopher Ponder, 736 Hope Street, who is interested in that appointment.
I move that we appoint Mr. Ponder to the Historic District Commission.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is the part where I always say thank you for the boards and commissions, what you do, taking time to make Bristol a better place. Also, we're going to start with a yearly meeting with all of our boards, our major boards, and we'll discuss that at a different time, to make sure that we're all on the same page, that the vision of the council is conveyed well, and the challenges of those visions are conveyed back to this council. It was mentioned by a few, in fact, I can see Andy Tiska in the back there, and it's mentioned by probably all of this council at different points, too. Also, we, again, appreciate the time, effort, and energy that the board and commission members give back to this community, and we believe that you are our eyes and ears, and you represent us, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item H1. This is continued from September 7th. This has to do with the update on possible Ripta high-speed ferry stop in Bristol.
Yes, along with the harbor master, in communication with Julie Oakley from the Department of Transportation. They're in the process, as we stated before, with the funding mechanism for 2017 and also expanded stops. So I'm just going to ask the harbor master to just make some comments on proceeding with that going forward for the next fiscal year.
Okay, so talking to Ms. Oakley through email, they're going to look into it. They're going to do some debriefing on this current season, and then look into the future to see where they might want to stop. They have no definitive plans to do that just as yet, but she said she'll get back to me and stay in touch with me, and as we move forward with it, and as they move forward with it, then we'll report back to you.
Great. What I would like to see is, I know we just got through an election, there's a transition going on, and the holidays, of course, when 2017 comes and the holidays go, we're going to have budget, and also we had conversations with the harbor master to maybe have a workshop to see the feasibility that, because if they do take action and acknowledge Bristol as one of those destinations, we should be prepared to act right away to welcome that initiative. So we're going to have conversations here locally on how that fits in with our waterfront and where that would take place. So I'd like to continue this item to February, whatever is the latter of the February meeting, Lou, of 2017. In the meantime, maybe come up with some dates of a workshop to have these conversations amongst us, because once the new year and the budget comes, it's going to be the springtime, and if they fund it and expand their program, Bristol should be ready to take advantage of that.
Nice forethought.
Is it your sense, Greg, that they're going to fund this for next year? I mean, that they're going to have a ferry service? Because they kind of left it up in the air that they had this.
I think so, because most days that was sold out, that ferry to Newport, you know. So, but it was sold out to go to Newport, so I don't, you know, maybe they'll want to stop in Bristol, maybe they make multiple runs, I don't know what they're going to do, but I know they're very excited about it up there, everybody's excited about it, so I'm sure it's going to continue.
Good.
So we have a motion to continue this to our last meeting in February, along with scheduling a workshop. Did I get all of that?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Let's see, also, item H2 from the chairman regarding website improvement update. This was also continued from September 7th.
So I'm going to, Mr. Administrator, I'm going to look at you. I know that this was a dialogue that we had going back, and I've since, and I know a lot have spent some time on the website, but please share the changes.
I believe you all have an update, a communication from me. We did form a committee. The committee met twice, and when I say committee, there was all the website page employees from various departments have come together, and we, as I pointed out, we met twice. One of the things that we agreed to at that time was to do a peer review, where someone would look at somebody else's website, and something was given for them to look specific, something specific. And as they walked through the website, then they came back to that other individual and says, okay, here are some of the areas that I think it can be improved. And they certainly was very helpful, and they were very appreciative. We came together to share that information. Jessica was Jessica Flummer, I should say, she helped us with fillable forms. We asked every department they had fillable forms to bring them together, and Jessica sort of assisted them to input those forms so they would be accessible to the public. So not just internally, but externally as well. The other item was the voucher system, and that's more of an internal process. But Gary provided, again, a workshop for the various departments so that we would be filing the voucher system through the website, what we have access to, obviously, because there was one of the features that was given to us as part of the package. The calendar update, when needed for public review, Cheryl has made sure that things are up to par. Whenever someone has submitted information, she has posted the information accordingly, and we continue to monitor that. The sharing of information resources between departments, that's pretty much what I just already stated. Rotating of the pitches, I think if you open it up, you see pitches are rotating much more so than they used to previously. We are getting some pretty neat pitches in there being submitted, and we figured out how to get them in there. It took a little time, but we, with some assistance, technical assistance from the website folks, we were able to do that. Quarterly reviews, we'll continue to do that for updates. And the analytics is, Jessica actually pulled that information, is to find out who's using the website, how often, for what purpose, is it internal, external use. So obviously we'll use that as a guide to do what we need to do and to improve the website to continue to do that. And the future goals will be to generate a policy that would specifically state what should and should not be allowed on a website. So not everything that somebody submits, just go nearly, well, let's just post, anything. So then there will be a policy that we have a committee to work on. That has not been started, but obviously that's one of the important pieces. Encourage residents to sign up for the Notify Me. Quite a few folks still call us for different things when they could actually access that information.
Tony, speak a little bit more about Notify Me, if you would.
About the Notify Me?
Yeah, why would somebody want to sign up for that?
I don't know. I know I do. Yes, I do, kiddingly. Obviously, if they want to know about meetings, about the alert, if there's, let's say, there's emergencies in town, especially at the alert piece.
Traffic, the parking ban, right?
Yes.
Those kind of things.
Exactly. Mainly some of the things that normally you would not access, that you need to be alert and be aware of that's taking place in the community. But meetings is one of them, parking, if there was an emergency, that it would not be of safety concern, but just something that we need to alert the residents, that we would post that as well. And it's important for people to obviously register for that. The other one is Code Red, which still need to do a little bit more work on that one as well, but that's more for emergencies, and I'm sure many of us that register for that have received the notification from Code Red from in different forms. Could be through the web page, your website, I should say. Sorry, take that back. Could be through your cell phone, texting, or your home phone as well. Okay. And then to continue to monitor the use of the website and purpose. So that's the function of the committee. And certainly, I believe we've come quite a ways, but always looking for improvement.
The website, when we first put it up, was fresh. It was new. It had information that was easily accessible, but that information got tired and old, and it wasn't updated. This is infinitely better. If you haven't spent a moment, go on the website. If you're looking for information, we have a couple of fire department members here. I know, particularly because you just reminded me of it. It's because of your uniform that reminded me. Their particular website, their portion web page, has a lot more information than it did in the past. So it's been updated and useful information. For example, you can go on the DPW site or Waste and Sanitation Services and see when you can pick up compost. You can see when things are changing, if there is a parking ban, and it's a great way to know what's going on. Now, you can get that, as Tony had mentioned, you can get an email or a text that way, or you can just go on the website and check it yourself. The pictures being updated is spectacular. No, that's not a technical thing, but it does make Bristol, because this is Bristol's ambassador from California. If you don't live around here and you want to see what's about the community, this is your first foray into what makes Bristol Bristol. So these pictures are a marked improvement. So I think this is a wonderful improvement. Let's continue to do this. I know that this council wants to use more of this technology for shared calendars, so we know what events are going on, so we can make sure we are all, and when one of us can't be at something, or two of us, then we make sure that we have representation there, so we can represent the community well. So this is a marked improvement. Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Just on that point of you bringing up the Department of Public Works over the election season, I guess some residents had concerns of the conveyance of the road program, and it should be stated along with the Director of Public Works and the Administrator that the long-term road plan can change accordingly year to year. So we are going to do a yearly statement on the website after discussions to convey to the Bristol residents and businesses as that program goes per year, but as for a forecast that residents are requesting due to funding and due to changes of emergencies, I think that would be false expectations to our residents. So accordingly, of those concerns of those residents that want that advertised, it would be accordingly on the website, and also the Phoenix accordingly. So, thank you.
So could I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Seconded?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a request for executive session, so I'm assuming the council wants to take that up at the conclusion of the public meeting. The next item is item I-2, also from the chairman regarding the new school zone flashing lights update.
Have you driven downtown on Hope Street? Saw those lights flashing?
Yeah.
They look wonderful. That was from an immense amount of hard work from a multitude of people, including the parents who had come to me initially, but that was a reinvigoration of something that many wanted from the past. As we've stated, we weren't able to get the state, unfortunately, to pay for it. We did, and I'm not going to steal the chief's thunder in his line that he likes to say all the time, but those are not just flashing lights. They're to remind you that there are pedestrians downtown, there are kids downtown during the day, obviously, because that's when they're going to be flashing. And it's not just for the kids, it's for everyone that's down there. So, Chief, what do you say all the time about what are we going to do when these lights are flashing? It's a educate first, right? So, enforce second. So,
I like that.
the chief will have his men and women there to remind people that it is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Those lights are there to do that. The police will remind you that much better. And if you don't take the first reminder, I'm thinking the second reminder will have financial consequences. So, but that is not the goal. The goal is to make sure that the people, whoever you are downtown, are walking between a car and that if something happens, that people are going slower and no one gets hurt, and that's really what we want from that. So it's an excellent job by all. They look wonderful. They look appropriate for where they are. Yes, they're bright and light, but that was the whole idea. So
Excellent. Big improvement.
absolutely. So can I have a motion to receive and file on this?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item also from the chairman regarding bid number 848 Byfield School Project, additional scope of work. You have some supplemental information provided by the treasurer, and I believe the building official provided some photographs in a small packet for the council.
Although this is my agenda item, I need to recuse myself because of family consequences.
As many of you know, Byfield School is under construction. If you don't know, it's at the corner of Church and High Street. It's got scaffolding around it. We are addressing the soffit in different areas of the building, which we're going to talk in more detail about. But I'd like to turn it over to Julie to comment on, if you could, on where we stand with the funding.
I'm going to pass that over to Tony first, because I think he probably wants to talk a little bit about the project. We
Sure.
can determine how much funding is needed, and then it can come back to me.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. As we know, the Byfield School was built in 1872. That's 144 years old. And as we may know, when we live in an old house or use an old building, things do need repair and maintenance over time. Unfortunately, we are at that point right now where we need some major repairs in the building. And the first thing that we put out was actually a scope of work because we were very concerned about the south side of the building. The trimming there, you could see, had fallen apart. Part of the gutter system had fallen off the building. There was part of the slate that also had dropped from the building. That's why we had the horses there to prevent any serious injuries to anyone, to the public. And so we did go out for bid because we knew that that south side needed to be done. And with that, we started considering, well, if the south side is that bad, how is it the rest of the gutter system around the building? And from inspection from the third floor, they were able to notice that the entire gutter system needed to be replaced. When the bid came in, the south side of the building, just for that gutter and the trimming, the woodwork and painting, we were looking at $63,900. With that being said, if we were to do just the south side, but obviously the council did agree, so that's a little bit redundant, but just to recap that, the council did agree to do the four sides at the cost of $191,500. That being said, we were able to save $64,100 by doing the entire perimeter of the building. However, when the contractor set up the staging to do the work around the building, they became very concerned about the rest of the slate on the building. The slate, some of the trimming, as well as the gullies, or the valleys, I should say. They also had some concerns with that. So they asked the building inspector and myself to visit the top floor of the staging and to take a walk around the building. Upon inspection of that, we noticed that there were much more serious concerns there. Concerns about slate. There was basically you just grabbed it and it would just flake in your hands. So that became quite a concern. And I know the question probably would be asked, well, why wasn't that noticed initially? Because the initial process, and again, keep in mind, the scope was the gutter system and the downspouts, not and a portion of the slate would be done as well because it would need to be stripped. You need to seal it, then do the gutter system. So with that being said, the contractor became very concerned. Says if we start taking this apart, there is there is further damage that will be incurred, and obviously there will be some serious concerns about leakage. And we're concerned about how would this be viewed as part of the job. It certainly doesn't look too kosher to go ahead and do, okay, we'll do what we quoted you for, but there is much more serious issues of leakage and damage on the roof, and that needed to be addressed prior to them actually continue to work their scope of work. So I actually would ask, the contractor is here, I believe, yes, he is. DJ is here. He can expand on that much better than I can in terms of the seriousness of the work that needs to be done and the damage.
Yes.
Good evening, DJ.
Good
State
evening.
your
My
name.
name's DJ Cordero. I actually brought gifts for you, too. They're not as nice as the bags you got earlier, but...
No skeletons of bats, I hope. All right.
So I brought some pieces of the building that I feel are pretty indicative of what's going on around the whole...
Oh, wow.
So, this is a piece of slate, and when you look at it, as it's falling apart in my hand, this would be the exposed part that you see. Above it,
Diane, you should give him a mic.
I think you're going to need to go back, yeah.
Hello. This lower section would be the part that you see. This is the exposed area, which doesn't look like it's in too bad of shape. But what we're concerned about is what lies above the exposure. And I'll pass this along to you guys to sort of see what's going on and how that's flaking apart.
Man.
And that's...
Sorry, Halsey.
Keep it down over there.
Yeah, so that's...
I got your point.
How old do you think this is?
Is that off of moisture?
That's about 144 years old.
So the roof is original?
Correct. So it lasted...
I get the picture.
It probably could have been replaced maybe 30 years ago, but this is where we are. And I'm sure you don't want to see this, but this is just what lies beneath the framing. This just shows that there's some rot that has made its way beyond.
So how much of that do you have to replace? How much of the wood?
The north and south sides need to be replaced fully. The east and west facing sides, we're making a best effort to salvage as much as possible. I'm going to go back over here. So we're making an effort to salvage as much as the east and west facing sides as possible. But as we go along, much of that is hidden underneath the trim board, soffits, fascias, so it's sort of a surprise every step of the way.
DJ, can you walk us through the comprehensive estimate of this, what it is?
All right, yes, so what we're looking to do, or what we've submitted as far as the additional repairs to Byfield School, let's see, the Mansard Roof, if you're not familiar with the components of a roof, a mansard would be that flat base. It's almost a wall. You know, it's a slight pitch. It's pretty straight up and down. It would be replacing, or removing, and then replacing those slates. Atop all the dormers are original copper roofs that have also failed. They're lined with the same material. See that kind of papery stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That was a Band-Aid, and who knows when that was put in place, but those roofs as well are lined with that, and that has failed. So what would happen is we'd have to remove copper, slate, and then we would apply a ice and water membrane and reapply the slates and the copper as necessary. And it's just, I invite anyone to come up and take a field trip and see what's up there. It's pretty self-explanatory. The roof has lived its life, and everything has.
Well, I went up today. I went up to the top, and I was holding on for dear life on the soffit.
You did a great job.
I met a couple bad skeletons and everything else, but you took me through, and it was clear to see that there were many holes in the roof, and it's definitely in need of some serious work. I mean, how old is the roof? 127 years old?
144.
144 years old, so it's lived a long life.
Yeah.
And goes to show you the testament of slate. I mean, slate roof really lasts you.
A slate roof should last at least 100 years, and sometimes they can go beyond that. This one, I don't know that it lasted 144 years because it has its problems, but
sure.
At this point, our worry is that if we let this, if this isn't resolved, the work that we have scoped out for the initial bid is going to sort of be pointless because water is going to find its way beyond the work that we did, causing rotten framing like so. So,
I'm just going to ask pointed questions. Number one, Mr. Cordero is the only bidder. Number two, he's a reputable contractor. He has done work for the town before. So my pointed questions, I just want to be taken back from the beginning because my questions are going to be outside your scope, so it could be you or anybody in front of us tonight. It's the scope of my questions of going forward with our bid process and what's taken in place of architectural design. We find ourselves time and time again as a town when we go out to bid and these occurrences happen, and at the cost of the taxpayers, we're talking another additional $200,000 in that ballpark to do this. And granted, the work has to be done. It is our buildings. But my question is, when the assessment was done just for the lone bit of the gutters, I know there was removal of some slate to do the job. So there was an assessment before the proposal, part of the 191 as the whole four sides was assessed? We
had access to basically looking at the gutters through the windows, so there was no way for us to climb out of the building. I wasn't going to do that unless there was a lift provided, and that wasn't provided. So we really only had access to look at the gutters themselves through a window.
So again, not to interrupt you, to my colleagues, is Who did the architectural design for the 898 bid? Who did the design?
We actually had a draftsman, Dave McDougall.
Okay.
The plans for that.
I think going forward, and again, this is separate and apart from you, Mr. Cordero, but what I want to get across tonight from myself as a counselor to my colleagues is going forward with the bid process is how we proceed with when we're cost over $100,000. I know on capital projects we have oversight. I think this council needs to address more oversight so we don't find ourselves, I know you can't do every situation, you just get engulfed in projects and you find the underlining conditions such as this. It's just, I think, I know I'm going to propose maybe a little more oversight on our bidding process, maybe more involvement from this council on when the bids go out. Each council member gets those specs in precise. This is no disrespect to you, Richard. You're the building inspector, and I know you go by code, but I think when we're talking over $100,000, we might spend $15,000 on someone who's going to take care of design procedures for this and actually has oversight over the contractors to make sure that the price and the bidding and everything after the job is done is accountable to present in front of this council for all the projects that come before the town on behalf of the residents. So that's just my caution, and again, it's separate apart. It could have been someone else standing where you are. I just, don't want this to happen time and time again, of running into these situations and having it fall in front of us like this. I think there has to be more accountability and oversight. Thank you.
Well, Lady, I completely agree with you. I think that the problem here was that the original assessment was inadequately made, and a good business practice would have been to do as you're suggesting, to study this building, go up there before we even ask for a bid, and find out what needs to be done. Because I'd like to also ask the solicitor, are we in proper standing to be able to negotiate this extent of a change, or what is the limit on how we can negotiate?
No, this would clearly be a change order. This gentleman was the sole bidder. You do have an emergency on your hands, so the answer is yes.
But having said that, it's still not the best practice to put out a job with only about half of the specification. We should have gone up there, assessed it, take some pieces off, figure out what needed to be done, and make the bid one of full scope. So I think it's a very important lesson for the future to never do a project this way again.
And I believe the conveyance going forward, when the council's involved with this on every bid going forward, some might think that it's micromanaging, but I'm sorry, on behalf of the taxpayers coming with change orders over $200,000, whether it's your project or any project going forward, I think we need to reassess our bidding process and our involvement as a council going forward. As I stated, Mr. Cordero is a very reputable contractor, sir, so don't take any disregard. Obviously, this has to be addressed. As far as an emergency, I'm sure it was an emergency probably for the past 10 years with holes that were existing up there, so it presents itself now.
So, Julie, what is the number in addition to the 191?
446, is that it? It's this one, isn't it?
Okay, I think DJ has a copy of that.
Yeah.
But
We have a copy. We have a copy of it.
I have a couple of copies that you guys.
With the options?
Yeah, we have,
Option one, option two, yeah.
we have option 1 and option 2. DJ?
Kind of went through and tried to break it down.
I have it, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, this is a different version, yeah.
I believe you gave a couple options, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And to my colleague's point, I think, the overarching issue is just having a concrete maintenance plan for our buildings and make sure we're constantly checking those and looking into maybe a revolving fund where we're actually putting money aside for these buildings, and so we can make sure we're on top of it.
And
to your point.
And the vice chair is right. I mean, I believe in our capital. We do have a capital plan. Let's not forget about that. But I think it was according every year of $50,000.
I know we had 1.6 million of a bond, but I think a lot of that was taking up. I was going to just ask you again about that bond and how much was left from that after all these projects.
Unfortunately, in this case, we can't use bond funds because there's private use in the building, so you can jeopardize the tax exempt status. So that's why you have the memo that you have, which talks about all of the different places where we could potentially take money from out of our budget, out of our operating budget.
I thank you for explaining that to the audience because...
Well, now, is the
that-
addition going to be 228,000 if you add together 165 for the mansard dormer, 50 for the windows?
Yeah, I presented an amended, Richard and I have had a few opportunities to sit down together.
Well, the plain and simple question is, how much more money do you want beyond the 191?
I'm not asking for
Well,
the money.
adding
I mean,
the
this
three-
is just what's
adding the
required.
three together, it's
This is what
228.
This is what we're proposing. These are the major issues. The mansard roof and dormers. The windows are in need of replacement, and then the building needs to be
So
painted.
those add up to 228,000?
Yeah. Well, we worked through it, and what I'm proposing as a final number is 229.5. But if we can get rid of permitting fees on some of these roof issues, then we can bring it back down to...
Well, now, the other obvious question is, with all respect to you, is this the end of the repricing, or are there going to be some more troubles occur that we don't yet know about?
I would hope that there aren't, but it is an old building, and I think anyone who lives in an old house knows that there's surprises around every corner. We've tried to account for everything we could, but as you've been up there, a lot of us have been up there, and the scale of work has increased based on being able to look at it up close.
So this is going to go from a $200,000 project to a $430,000 project.
Yeah.
See, this is where I'm confused, because you're saying the new total is 229, or is that 229 plus the one? Because on this, what was in our packet, option 1 was 258, and
Yeah.
option 2 was 446.
We worked out some different window options, and like I said, Richard and I have sat down together and tried to trim this number down as best as possible. So this was something, after being able to work on the building for a while, trim down some of the trim numbers, just to see exactly how we're going to put this building back together the most economically.
So what is the number? Like, so what gets the roof fixed, the dormers fixed, the windows?
The 165.5 would fix the mansard and the dormer roofs.
Is that option? Which one are we
I gave
looking
you
at?
what I do. I gave.
It's estimate 411. It's estimate 411 that
Yes.
he's referring to.
Yes.
So you're saying for 229,500, you get this done?
Yes.
Right? So what don't we get done then with the, is it just that you've cut back on, I mean, that's a big difference from 446,800.
Well, the 446,800 was taking into account our current approved contract.
Yeah, so Mayor, you
Right,
have
that's
to
what I'm saying.
add, you have to add the
right?
191.5
Okay.
to the 229.5
Okay,
to get the total number.
Okay, so that's what I want to know. So that comes out, so that's what Halsey's saying, okay.
Yes.
It's just the concern again going forward, and here we are right engulfed in the middle of this project, as Councilman Herreshoff says, is,
421.
and according of the best interest of when we go with these bids, it specifies that, the contractor has to verify conditions prior to submission. It's concerning now, we're here and we're not going to go back and forth, but I think a concern to this council is exactly what we're specifying on your numbers of, is this the end once we do all this work? What else has to be verified to come up to a total number to take care of what needs to be done for this building going forward?
Well, there's what we've accounted for in our updated quote would not cover the windows on the first and second floor, which need to be painted and reglazed, because Mr. Calderiso, I've spoken to a number of times, the window panes are falling out, and and that's sort of a whole different scope of work beyond fixing soffits, which is what we were initially contacted to do. So, unfortunately, the building hadn't been maintained properly for quite a long time, and it's just reached the point where it's sort of just a black hole of
And any inaction, as you're saying, like you said, you can go up and do, I could do what you asked me to do, but it's also going to be jeopardizing the money you're investing in what I'm doing if you have to go back up and counter and interact with all the other materials that have to be repaired in the future.
Oh, correct. And furthermore, I mean, what we've found as we've been making our way around the building, the north and south side visibly look the worst, but it was beneficial that they are falling off because it has shed water away. It's sort of at a 45-degree angle now where water is not backing up into the building. Some of the places where we've seen rot, such as what you see on that area over there, are the corners on the east and west facing side. There's bump outs on the center of the building, and those didn't necessarily sag. They just had holes in the soffits, which have begun to make their way into the framing of the building. So
Right.
this is an issue. Whether or not you had somebody up on that roof and you paid $15,000 to do some sort of study, these issues still would have been there. And the longer we wait to do them, these issues are going to grow. And I mean, if you look at the building where Leo's Pizza is, and they had to put foundations through the building, I mean, that's what this leads toward. That building was let go for so long because of gutter issues, and that's what this will lead to. So much of that you don't see until you pull
So
this
DJ,
apart.
does your estimate include some room for some of that rotted wood underneath that? If you start pulling back the slate, and we've got some water damage, we're probably going to have some rot and maybe some plaster damage and root.
Well, from what we can tell, normally when you have large areas that have given away, you'll see concavities into the building, but the building seems structurally sound, where that's not true. There's one area on the front of the building, which would be the west side, that there is one visible hole. But I think aside from that, there's no areas where we see rotten sheathing beyond that area. But I'm not, as much as I'd like to say I'm going to cover it all, I'm not going to assume the liability of a building that isn't maintained.
I think all my colleagues are getting the same thing. We don't want any more surprises. This is a huge surprise, and we're just trying to get to find out what. We don't make sure we're covering everything that is needed in the estimate to get this done right and properly for the long term.
I don't know if it's our biggest concern, but one of the largest costs is the scaffolding rent. So there's a $40,000 sunk cost in this project. So if we're only going to fix the soffit and do not a proper repair to the rest of the building, let's say in 3 years, you're going to have to pay this $40,000 on top of the $165 again. So it makes sense financially to take on these projects right now. The windows, it would be nice to do while the scaffolding is there, but it's not 100% necessary. But I'm sure if you spoke to the tenants, they would feel that the windows replacement is necessary. But
So what's the dollar figure on the scaffolding, and how long do you have it? What's the schedule?
we have the scaffolding figured in our initial contract for about 2 months to complete our work. So finishing in that, perimeter is on us. Whatever. If it takes me 10 months, then that's what I'm stuck with it.
And that's how much for that 2 months, the scaffolding?
The scaffolding rental is $4,000 a month.
4,000, okay, so 8.
So can I ask you, so it comes to like $421,000, and on this other option, it was $446. So that's where you made the cuts.
Yeah, we made some cuts. We changed some windows options.
And are the windows going to be we just had a discussion with Historic District, about the Historic District, and when we were interviewing people earlier, are they going to be acceptable for that building?
They are similar to windows that were installed on the town hall, I believe.
And Mary, we are on the agenda to go before the Historic District, so we will be presenting that to them.
If you're going to, re-put like a new slate roof and make it back to its historically correct, then we'd want to make sure, I would think that you'd have like appropriate windows and not go to something totally modern. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, we've worked through numerous window options, and on the higher end, it was over $100,000 just for the 36 windows on the top,
I'm sure that's
level.
crazy.
So,
could I ask Julie then, what it looks like in our packet? It looks like we still need $146,000, right? You said that you'd able to be identify $275,000.
Yeah, so, and then there's that next line down that says worst-case scenario.
Oh, yeah.
And that would require a transfer from our severance committed fund account, and there's $210,000 in that account right now. So if this absolutely cannot wait and there's no savings to be had using different materials and there's no, there are no other options and we're stuck, then I guess this is what we have to do, and then I would just ask that the council put the money back in the July 1st budget, because we use that severance fund to cover ourselves in the event that we have more retirements than we think, which happens,
Right. But this is what I'm curious about, maybe a little concerned about. I mean, we just had the bond pass, fortunately, and we had a prior bond pass, I believe that was for public buildings. And, and I think in all of our heads that these buildings and the upgrades and repairs to these buildings were included in that. Now you're saying we're not able to use the bond for that. So it kind of puts us in a really bad situation, I think, because we were, we know some of this work. I think this is all a surprise to us, obviously, but we know that work had to be done on those buildings.
Well, and we had, was a couple of years ago maybe now, but the prior DPW director and Richard had done an assessment on all of the public buildings. So while we can't use the bond money for those particular buildings that we're renting out, currently just the 2 right now, we have a whole lot of other public buildings that need repairs also. I mean, this is unfortunately a story, I think, if you look across town. I think a lot of our buildings are in rough shape. So I do think that public buildings bond is important for the other projects. I mean, Town Hall is one of those. Burnside, we recently did a bit of roof repair on that. I know
Interior.
that it's a long list.
We
So I
escaped
think that bond money
just
still
a
is
little on
important,
that
but it
one.
is really unfortunate that we can't access that money for those school buildings right now.
Now,
But
what
it's a
would you-
benefit to be able to rent them out and
Right,
keep those
right.
buildings breathing and alive. That helps.
Right. Well, now, what would you be doing for the winter? Because you wouldn't be able to finish, even if we gave you the okay today, you wouldn't be able to finish this project before the winter, would you?
Well, we'll work as long as the winter allows. I mean, once the weather turns, we're kind of stuck.
So how do you button it up so that it doesn't get further damage?
Right.
Well, what our plan would be to strip all the slate for the time being and start that way, ice and water shield this building so it would actually be more watertight than it is now because there are holes everywhere, and work as long as we can until winter comes. But the building will be watertight because this membrane will be on all the roofs
So
in that mansard.
You would be putting new wood where you find the rotted wood, just like somebody's repairing a house. You'd find
Correct.
rotted wood, you're going to put new wood in there?
Correct.
And then you're putting all new slate?
Correct. And then copper roofs atop all the dormers on that mansard area.
These holes that you identified where the water was getting in, I'm just trying to think of how long they've probably been there, and do we have to worry about the interior going forward of Byfield School of expanded walls to be concerned with, because we were briefed on how that can happen to interior walls to expand once that freezing up takes place? Do you think there's more, and like my colleagues, and I know you can't answer this tonight, but it's an assessment of our buildings that what else is out there, and
I wish we had X-ray goggles to see what was happening in and outside. It's sort of impossible until you do exploratory surgery.
Yeah. So DJ, is there a winter cost involved with? And so, say you get the scaffolding. You have the scaffolding up. You start pulling off the slate, and we start to get snow, and we want to seal it up for the winter. What happens then? Does the scaffolding all come down, then go back up? What are those costs involved?
We calculated, let's say you decided that you weren't going to fund this project until July. It would make sense to leave the scaffolding up that whole time because you're going to lose basically $12,000 between the takedown and the setback. And it makes sense to just rent it for that whole time. So we would work, if it snows, we can't go up there. But other than that, we're going to work through it. And that's our plan. So if we have a month where we don't work, the town will have to absorb that rental cost.
But are there weather conditions? I know like in a house roof, for example, which is not slate, I've been told that you can't really do it in the winter, that you'd have to...
That's true because on an asphalt shingle roof, there's like a tar adhesive on the back that the shingles will seal. And if it's sunny, you can usually do it, but slate you don't have that same problem. And our plan, like I said, is to remove the slate and put the ice and water membrane on now before we get to these sub-freezing temperatures, so it will adhere to the building. And that'll be the priority leading up to the winter.
Mitigating further water damage. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Julie, for the funding mechanism and the choices,
what is your advice, and is there a potential impact if we were to transfer from other accounts that you probably wouldn't advise?
So I'll say that I'm more comfortable, and I'll just read through the list quickly. We have $191,000 for the original scope, budgeted capital money we can use, and then there was $10,000 that we're proposing to take from the Community Development Department, which had funds there for stormwater feasibility study, and we can defer that project. There was a transfer from the Recreation capital account to defer the purchase of Town Beach sand, $20,000. There was a transfer from our Naomi Street committed fund account for $54,000. We continue to get rental income on that. That fund will continue to build up, and we can, if there are more work that needs to be done, we can budget for that next fiscal year as well. So I suppose I'm comfortable advising that we make those transfers. That does require council approval, so it needs a motion. And then over and above that, if it sounds, I mean, everything I'm hearing tonight sounds like we're stuck.
So you've got
Unless
a
somebody has
I
a
know.
great idea, you know.
We need big checks.
So you've got a cash flow problem here for timing.
It's not a cash flow problem, it's a budget and fund problem.
Yeah.
What about the
But the timing of it is also an
Right,
issue.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
What about our reserve fund? You don't want, I know you don't like to take money from there, but is that a better option or no?
That would be our fund balance, and we can't do that. The rating agencies they frown strongly upon that, so I'd recommend this before that.
Yeah, we got to leave that alone.
And you said the severance would be high risk.
Yeah,
Would be
well, the
very-
severance fund, I mean, the
Severance
thing
fund,
with the issue with the severance fund is that it's a committed fund, which means that the council has voted to hold those funds separate in the event that we need it for severance payments to retirees.
But that leads us...
That fund can be replenished with a new budget.
But I think what this whole history tells us is we've got to be very sure that at this juncture, we have a clear commitment of what's going to happen before the council approves it. In other words, these notes are interesting, but this isn't really in the contract form. I think we've got to be very particular now that this doesn't keep growing.
We'll be submitting a proper contract. It was just, this was sort of us trying to recognize what was actually going on with the building.
Right, but I don't think it's not fair to expect the council to approve something that isn't in a form that they can believe is realistic.
Well, I think that we'd have to either, if we go forward tonight to do that contingent upon receiving that and have our administrator look at that and agree to it, or have another meeting, because we don't have a meeting scheduled
Right.
till either the 7th, and that's just a reorganizational meeting. So even if we put it on that, so you've still got like a couple of weeks of potentially good weather that we would lose. So I don't think we have, I think
Right.
because of the timing, I mean, I'm concerned about that too.
Well,
That's what I'm concerned.
we're able to work on the original contract as the weeks go forward. I'd say there's probably 3 more weeks in that initial contract work will basically be done. It'd be nice to take advantage of, at the same time, to be able to start this
Right.
secondary phase of work.
Because if you're up there, you would just knock down those, if you're on one
That's,
area.
in a perfect situation, I'd prefer to pull those slates off before we put this nice new shiny copper down and not throw slates on top of it. We're going to have to make up some sort of protection.
Why don't I look to the solicitor to come up with an option? Obviously, it needs funding, but we want to be cautious, and there's still some stuff that has to take place. Can we account for the money, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to spend it on this project if we don't want to going forward. But as long as we make a motion to secure the allocation at this meeting for those funds to be appropriated. I'm just bringing some ideas to go forward with this.
Right,
Yeah.
and you can make all of that contingent upon an acceptable contract.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do. We have to allow this work to proceed because we don't have much time before it snows. But on the other hand, I don't think we should approve $229,500 without a more firm and definite contract,
Well, I think what would
which
be the, what would be
defines
the,
its scope.
but Tim, what would be the, or in Halsey, what would be the council's preference? I mean, is it to say in concept we agree with this and come back and we have like a special meeting next week or the Monday the following week, and with that contract in place and go forward there while he continues to work on the other project? Or do we say, we agree with that, develop that contract, and we authorize the administrator to make that decision? I think we just have to decide what we want to do so that we can, because we're going to have, if we're going to look at that contract ourselves, we're going to need to have a special meeting.
Right.
Which I agree with. I think our due diligence has to be, Mr. Chairman, a little more involved at this point going forward with this on behalf of the monies that are being allocated. So.
I agree with you, Ed and Mary. I think a special meeting is needed to be scheduled so we can have a formal contract to review. In my opinion, I think that's the most prudent
How long would it
and
take to do
diligent
that?
decision to do.
How long would it take to write that contract up?
I basically have them all written up. It would just be a matter of sitting down with Mr. Texter and Mr. Pimenta and finalizing some of the smaller details, and I could present it to you tomorrow afternoon if you'd like.
Well, could you have that on the administrator's desk by Monday?
Certainly.
I mean, because we could meet on the 28th. I mean, in theory, we could probably meet on the 28th, or at least a majority of people.
I believe the chairman's going to be away after the 26th. Am I correct?
Correct.
Well, I mean, are there three, no offense, but I mean, are there three people, the three of us for sure be able to be at that meeting? You need three, because Nathan,
So we can't do it the 21st?
this Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's
even
right.
a
I'm in a
Tuesday.
different week, right, okay.
Tuesday.
Yeah, we
It's
could
not
do this
Wednesday,
Monday, I was thinking about the
it's
28th, yeah.
families. Either Monday or Tuesday, if it doesn't conflict with other meetings.
Yeah, this Monday, yeah.
Yeah, like at 6 o'clock, we could do it early or is Ed?
If you're just not going to be
6:30 would be all right.
partaking, I think this will supersede any of our other
Yeah,
commitments
yeah.
that are scheduled that we have in our calendar as of today for Monday, which we do.
Okay.
But this supersedes it, in my opinion.
Okay.
So.
Lou, can we go ahead?
So we'll do the Monday, the 21st, then, okay.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
And what I'll do is,
Try for Monday.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
I will review
Monday,
that
November
and
21st.
prepare a memo for you, because I won't be able to be here on the 21st, but I will certainly have my recommendation for you.
Okay.
So you'll
Okay.
review this contract and
I will
everything?
review the contract prior to it going to the council with my recommendations.
So with all this dialogue, would you be able to help us make a preliminary motion going forward towards this so we can actually get to that Monday?
Or maybe we could just direct,
How
what is the
about,
motion?
I'll prepare a motion for you, too.
Okay.
I'll prepare, based upon what I heard this evening, assuming you decide to go forward with the contract, I'll have the motion ready for you.
I think Ed means tonight. Like, he means, we need a motion.
Do we need a
tonight.
motion for tonight?
Oh, tonight you're just going to continue, yes.
We're just
That's
going
what I needed to know.
Okay, yeah.
So can we have a motion to continue?
Mike, just to ask you about your timing. If we're going to have a meeting at 6 o'clock Monday, when are you going to be able to review the contract?
Well, I'm hearing that it could possibly be ready by tomorrow. I will review it Friday, Saturday, whenever I need to review it.
Yeah, I think you should get it ready by no later than the first thing Friday morning, if you could do that.
Right, it'll get emailed to me, and I'll take it from there.
That's what we'll do.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue this item to the 28th.
Okay. All in favor?
21st, the 21st.
All in favor?
28th in my mind, the 21st. yes.
21st.
Not to throw a monkey,
Like those
sorry, not to
tweets.
throw a monkey wrench. Are there going to be any sort of delays based on the historic district, or is that something we're going to have to worry about?
It's a very good question, Mr. Cadero.
Yeah.
I don't think on the
Well,
roof,
yeah.
it'd probably be more about the windows, probably.
Yeah.
I cannot answer on behalf of the historic
We'll need to chat with them beforehand, DJ. We'll need to chat with them beforehand.
Doesn't matter on the funding and the
It doesn't
contract.
matter on the funding, plus if you're,
Well, I do take that
if
back.
you're staying with a slate roof as opposed to going to a cheaper alternative, and you're staying with the copper as opposed to going to something cheaper, you're replacing what's there with materials that are similar. And this is not including the $45,000 to $55,000 estimate on the windows, so.
Right.
Well, it does have windows in it. This does have windows here. It says windows, 50,000.
But
broken
those,
out.
I imagine, will have to be approved.
What is it?
Absolutely.
What is the difference in cost
could
between a
jeopardize
slate
it.
roof or
That
a
could-
more conventional roof?
First of all, can we just get the motion? We had a first and a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
What is the difference between the cost of a slate roof, which is all new slate, versus more conventional asphalt roof?
Oh, it's fairly substantial. I'd have to break down the number of squares, but I mean, we're talking $300 or $400 a square versus, I'll email you. I have to do some math and I can't do it in my head
So
right
it's
now.
about 3 times as much?
I'd probably say more than that.
More than that?
Yeah.
Well, now, what about that as an alternative?
But you'd have to replace it probably 3 times in the
Oh,
100
definitely.
in the
Oh,
100
more,
years,
yeah,
so you'd
yeah.
have to factor that in as well.
And the issue with putting an asphalt shingle roof on a mansard is the weight of the shingle eventually pulls the nails stay on the roof and the shingles fall down because as they heat up, they soften and the shingles fall off fairly easily on a mansard styled roof. It's just the way it goes.
But the slate's a lot heavier than the other kind of roofing.
But the slates, aside from 144 years of life, they don't melt. The asphalt shingle as it heats up softens and pulls from the nail.
Well, I think my view is that we obviously have to fix the building and we have to get it tight and it has to be able to operate. But I think if the slate roof costs 3 or 4 times what another method of roofing costs, we ought to consider that as an alternative.
Richard, did you look into that?
Yes, we're, like I said, we're going to be going before the Historic District. I'm not sure if they would accept asphalt shingles.
Okay.
I'd bring it up.
I don't think you do it in this.
And the lifespan is not as...
Lifespan, no, it's
I mean-
30 years.
Houses are getting 20 years out of shingles nowadays.
It's very
versus-
visible. I mean, like, you see those, you see that. I mean, it's like a big element of the building. It's not like it's up on, you know.
Especially being, I'm sick of saying the word, but a mansard roof, it's a very visible feature of that building, as you said.
And I noticed some of these are flat and some of these are curved. Would you be replicating that?
Yep, it'll be replicated.
Will you be there tomorrow?
Yes. You want to come by?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be there.
Great. Thank you very much, DJ.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For
I don't know if you want to take that with you.
Okay.
I didn't know slate just crumbled like that.
Oh, yeah, over time.
The next item is from Councilman Stewart regarding the Rhode Island Energy Challenge report, item I-4.
So once again, the election is over and the holidays are upon us. So we have this important intermission between the two by the end of the year. First, I would like to thank our administrator, Tony Texera, and our Director of Community Development, Diane Williamson, and along with all the departments for their input and their collaboration on this effort, a townwide effort that we're asking all the residents. We're up to 157. We need 500, so that's 343 more we need by the end of the year to win that challenge so we can secure that grant. And it's a win-win for all of us. Who doesn't want a free assessment for energy cost savings? We're doing it as a town, and this is an integrated part of Solarize Rhode Island, which the town of Bristol was part of, along with our residents and our LED lighting initiative. So in your house, you can have all these cost savings. And all you have to do is go online, www.findyour4.com. It only takes 3 minutes, literally 3 minutes. Just put your information in, and then you can be accounted for towards that 500 so we can win. And we want to win Thursday, right, at Thanksgiving at Mount Hope against Barrington. Well, Melinda Howard, who was here presenting in front of us for the statewide coordinator, she says that they actually have a challenge going over there. They have to secure their 500 signatures. So I know she came down, did a wonderful effort, along with all of us during the walkabout to secure our signatures. And more, we're going to have all these holiday events, so you're going to see a setup like we have here at Town Hall call or when you go to our town website or to the Find Your For website to get enthusiastic about this program to secure this, because it's only going to expand. I'd like to thank the administrator and Diane for, again, reaching out to the school department, so their involvement, along with all our local organizations. So all of us together, let's try to secure this earlier than later in the year, because we're going to be busy with the holidays. So please, this is just another commercial for this great effort to go to www.findyourfor.com. Please sign up so we can secure the 500, and then after that, as a town, we'll be going forward with workshops and community outreach to secure more. And I don't know if, Diane, you would like to expand on what I just said. So please, this is just a commercial for our town to please help us with this effort going forward, and we can streamline it on social media going forward also. So thank you.
Motion to receive and file on that one?
Yes, sir.
Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, you have a report from the Fire Chief regarding the proposed volunteer fighter EMS tax incentive program.
Chief.
So I'll begin by saying, as I'm sure you'll all agree, I think the town's been blessed with a great volunteer firefighter force.
Here, here.
Volunteers, and continues to be blessed to this day with the men and women that volunteer on a daily basis. However, with that, we have not necessarily escaped the national trend in the decline in people willing to become volunteer and emergency medical service personnel. So very quickly, I moved to address that in several fashions. One being working with the high school to develop a junior firefighter program, which we quickly got off the ground and have 3 gentlemen right now that are taking it between the ages of 15 and 18, and potentially in the future provide some credit to the student for coursework that will be developed with that. The second component really was to look around and see what was available nationally and both locally for incentive programs. There's a lot of different ones out there. So what I did is I put together a program that I think gives credit to those who have served for many, many years, but also provide some type of incentive to both recruit and retain volunteers in this day and age, where both the time commitment and the amount of hours that training has to be accomplished in, as well as the amount of time that people spend on emergency calls, which have increased substantially over the years, into this program where it's not necessarily a gimme, but it's a make-you-earn-it program. And my recommendation would be is to move it to a workshop so that we can talk about it, discuss it, because it is somewhat complex. And I think, this begins the conversation as we move forward.
I think that's a good idea. Could I just ask you one quick question? You don't have to answer it, but I don't want to forget the question. I'm writing it down here. For the younger, if you're able to recruit younger people who may be in college, young adults, but they may be living with parents for several years, maybe the next 5 years or whatever, would this incentive be able to go to their parents, towards their parents' house?
What we did is we tried to keep it as streamlined and clear, so, muddying the waters, transferring it to this person, that person. What we did is we also come up with a stipend in lieu of taxes that you could meet as well.
Chief, if you mentioned that it's more and more difficult to get new volunteers or additional volunteers, even though that we do have a wonderful force right now, if someone is interested, how do they go from an interest to, hey, what's the next step? How do they get involved?
So traditionally, it's always been through kind of a referral, a generational referral, as we sometimes say. But it could be as simple as that, knowing somebody that already does it, stopping by any one of the fire stations on the first Wednesday of every month when they have their company meetings, or simply approaching the office at headquarters on Metacom Avenue. At any time, you can stop in and we can certainly provide the information to those that are interested.
Thank you. So the Chief's recommendation is for us to move this to a workshop. We should probably, I think that's a very appropriate next step. Certainly we need to schedule that. I know we have a few things going on right now. Maybe we can work with the
21st? I mean, we just set up a meeting for the 21st. Is that Is that too soon for this?
It'd be in December or January, correct, Chief? You wanted to do something
Yeah, I mean, I
after
think it
we...
would be beneficial with the new council and everything.
I agree.
that's taking
Yeah.
place, to move it out till after the first of the year. And
Okay.
So we'll work with the clerk and yourself and all involved to set up a workshop that works for everyone. So can we have a motion to set up that workshop?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
The next item is bid number 851, and upon the recommendation of all the parties involved, this bid has been extended because of the complexity of the response. So it will be something that you're going to consider at your next regularly scheduled meeting.
Do you need us to do anything on this?
Nope. It just that's just FYI at that point. Okay.
Thank you.
The next is from the Town Administrator regarding the Beta Group quarterly report on the water pollution control projects, item K1.
Well, I just want to comment that through this report, it's important because us as a town, we take very seriously water runoff for drainage and whatnot, and I'm just glad that, through Beta in our assessment for the drainage improvements, that we're preserving and just being cognizant of that going forward. Motion to receive and file.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody? Okay. Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item L1. This has to do with the Town of Warren versus the Bristol Warren Regional School District and others. The solicitor is going to provide a report.
This is just for your reference and information. We originally filed a brief in connection with the school district litigation. The Town of Warren replied to that brief. We were allowed to reply to their brief, so it's a receive and file.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. The next has to do with flushable wipes litigation.
I feel like we covered this. Okay, go ahead.
So this is...
That's pretty good. Go ahead. Thank you.
So this is something I will be asking, I'm recommending action from the council on. Believe it or not, that item called flushable wipes, they're actually not flushable. If you talk to Jose, he will tell you how they gum up the sewer system. Apparently this is happening nationwide. We came upon a class action lawsuit which has been filed in California, but now is growing to include communities throughout the country. After speaking to Jose and Tony about it, it would be beneficial to the town to join this lawsuit because it's really a no-lose situation. The lawsuit going forward, if in fact there is compensation that is provided, all of the plaintiffs will share in that compensation. If the lawsuit is lost, there's absolutely no cost to the town. There's no cost for lawyers' fees, for expert fees, etc. The only thing that would have to happen is our wastewater department will have to keep track of specifics on when things get clogged, how, take pictures, etc. So there is a retainer agreement that's in your packet, and it's my recommendation, again, since hopefully something positive will come from it, but if nothing does, nothing lost, nothing gained.
So I just have, go figure, I have a couple of questions, Michael.
Absolutely.
Appropriate fee requests, the firm's fee would also have to be approved by the court. So would our fee requests be approved by the court too?
Right, so the reason there's not a specific fee request in there, so the fee would come out of the proceeds of any award. It's not going to come from the individual communities. And depending on whether or not the matter goes to trial or is resolved prior to trial, the fee can range from anything from 1/3 to 40% of the award. And so there's no way of knowing at this point what it is. So the check on the fee would be a judge, because the fee would have to be agreed to among all of the plaintiffs, Bristol being one of them, and then a judge would have to sign off. If any of the individual plaintiffs were objecting to that fee, they'd have the opportunity to do so. But you understand that we would still get a piece of the award. It would just be minus whatever that fee is.
So the only other question is, the only way we would actually spend money is if we discharged ourselves from this law office that's representing this case?
No.
No?
No.
We wouldn't be responsible for his fees at that point if we discharge him?
No.
No?
We could get out. We can get out at any time. According to Jose, this is a big issue for our sewer plant, and it is causing big problems, and he would very much like us to try and do something about it. Either these flushable wipes have to change in terms of their consistency, or something has to happen.
What entity is paying for the case to proceed?
So it would be the companies that make these wipes that are being sued. So the entities are the companies that act, and I don't know the names of all of them.
They're the ones being charged.
Procter & Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, all those companies that make the flushable wipes.
But who's the good guy paying for the lawyers?
Well, the law firm, it's like any class action suit. The law firm is absorbing all the costs with the hope that it's going to come out in the end. It may not.
It's a contingency basis, basically, right?
So well, this is sort of a no-brainer.
It is. It's a contingency.
I think they'll win.
Isn't this a no-brainer for us?
I believe it is. There's no downside for us.
And I don't see us discharging ourselves. It's just I was anything before we give him notice. It does say that we are responsible for fees ultimately paid based on its work conducted prior to the notice of termination.
Yeah. So what that means is this: that we would never recover or collect any monies. We would no longer be eligible.
Okay.
That's what that means.
Thank you.
So, Mike, the motion, if we decide to participate, is?
Yeah, exactly, is to approve the agreement for legal services with Berman de Valerio as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next, also from the solicitor's office, is the Clipper Way settlement.
So there have been 2 ongoing lawsuits with the Clipper Way right-of-way. That's basically the issue of whether or not the public had a right-of-way through Clipper Way to the ocean. The 2 lawsuits have been caught up in both federal court and in state court, and they've been going on for a long time. And finally, I can report to you that the matter has been resolved. I also want to thank Nathan because he got involved towards the end and things really started moving. Plus, we had a judge, Judge Leach, who really took an interest in this and was very helpful in moving it along. So the result is that we now do have a recognized public right-of-way there. It's going to be marked. I'm going to leave you all with a packet which has the maps, which has the pictures of the signs that are going to be posted so the public knows exactly where that right-of-way is and how to get there. As part of all these settlements, that lawsuit claiming over $1 million in damages against the town has been dismissed, and forevermore the public will have a right to the water at that point. So it's,
well, I think you've done a yeoman job to get this taken care of and out of the way, because actually the fight has been going on about 25 years.
Yeah.
The lawsuit, the lawsuit was actually filed in 2008, but prior to that, with CRMC, it's been an ongoing for many, many years, Halsey. You are correct.
So we can't forget to have our ribbon cutting. I mean, getting a little bit late in the season, but maybe first thing in the spring and have our little festive event.
Yeah. Bring our chairs, lawn chairs, beach chairs.
There we go.
So this is a receive and file?
Yeah.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next, we have council members' individual items, beginning with the chairman.
So I'll state again, nice job to my colleagues, all of them in government, on their successful re-election and election. It's, for anybody who's done it, it's a lot of work, and it's wonderful to see the numbers come in and see your success It's also important to point out that I, and I think others, have run and lost in the past. My first 2 times running, I was non-successful. So that is also a lot of work. So there was a lot of people that put time, effort, and energy in. And I know that we all think this way too, is that new candidates and those dialogues are so important because they can bring new ideas. Whether they get elected or not, it starts a conversation that's important to have. And Bristol is very much about, we don't do things just because we've always done them. Well, sometimes we do. But we're also open to the idea of maybe it's time for a change when it's appropriate, when it's a new idea or a new action that should happen. So we had Veterans Day on Friday of last week, and we celebrated it at the Veterans Home. It is absolutely spectacular, even though it's a dusty mess right now. It is still absolutely spectacular. And I said to a few people while I was there that it is absolutely wonderful, and the veterans that we all met and continue to know and meet deserve 20 times more, even though it's spectacular. It was at, actually they had Mass there, and it was humbling to stand in the back. Actually, I stood next to the chief and others, and to see about 30 wheelchairs. And you realize how much is given. And actually, I'll tell you a story. As I was getting ready to go there in the morning, I was putting my tie on in the mirror, and my daughter came up to me and said, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I said, I'm going to a Veterans Day celebration. And she said, "What's a veteran?" And I thought about it for a while, and I said, it's somebody who loves their country so much that they're willing to put themselves in harm's way. And she thought about it for a second, and she looked at me, and she said, "Tell them I said thank you." I thought that was absolutely wonderful. So, you know, I mean, it's just absolutely wonderful.
She tuned in.
So again, nice job on the election. We have appointments coming up. Appointments are the council appointment, which include the solicitor, who has been with us for a long time, our sergeant-in-arms, Archie, back there. We also have other appointments, including judges. This council appoints and reappoints the harbor master. I say this not because of any reflection on the quality of work that it's been doing right now, but for good open government. The opportunity exists out there. If you are interested in that position, and you got some big shoes to fill, just so I'm saying, but if you are interested in those positions, get a letter out to the clerk, and we will talk with you, because that's what we're supposed to do. If there's interest in those positions or others, we talk about it all the time with boards and commissions. This is just like that. I mean, we take no offense when people run for these council seats. I know these fine gentlemen and all that are involved understand that too, and they take no offense either. It's just part of the process. So if you're interested, come and see us. Again, no reflection on the quality that we currently have. Congratulations once again to Robert Ferguson. He also has some big shoes, literally, because the chief is going behind us over there, because he used to be the fire marshal, and others before him, other wonderful people. So he's got a lot to fill in, but I think he's going to do a wonderful job, and we're very proud of him. As the chief also said, we're very proud of our fire department and their willingness to put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe. Speaking of that, we have an accredited police department. Chief just went down to the Kalia meeting to accept that recognition. He's one, and I got some cheat sheets here if you don't mind. Our Bristol Police Department's one of 9 in Rhode Island. There's about 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States. 420 municipal police departments actually are Kalia accredited. Do the math. So this is not just good housekeeping seal. This is a really big deal. What they do to get there, I actually ended up speaking with a few people, including the chief in your department. It's impressive. And it's impressive because it's good systems, it's good management, and make sure that not only are we safe, but we're all being treated equally and fairly. So, Chief, did you want to add anything to that? No? I thought I did. I got that down. That's it. Actually, let me leave it with this. 34 years is a very long time to give back to the community. Halsey, you and I have agreed on a lot of things, not all things, but one of the things that work well with us, or has worked well with us, is that you help me make my point that much stronger when I disagree with you. So it's good debate, And as we've said multiple times, when we leave here and when the meeting is done, we can go out there and shake hands, and there's no bad feelings. It's about what we believe is best for the town, and debate is important. And you've done that. You've done. And other people are going to say some nice things, but I just wanted to share that, and also that we appreciate you putting in all of that effort and time. There's parks that wouldn't exist without your efforts. There are, in fact, I believe the chief was actually hired by you. Am I correct with that? Is that right? Yeah. So. I mean, a lot of good things happen while you've been here, and we truly expect, actually, I take that back, we require that you show your face every once in a while and point out maybe the flagpole is not as straight as it should be. I don't know.
Well, thank you for that. I very much appreciate those sentiments, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney.
Well, Halsey, I mean, you've been sitting next to me for 2 years. I've grown huge respect for you. Actually, we've been working together for 4 years. And what I love about Halsey and myself, we go back and forth, and we may not agree, but we always have a respect for each other. And I think that's a true testament of a statesman, of which you are. And you've really left your mark on Bristol. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the audience and participating. But I want to know, are you going to sign that drawer?
Yes. I mentioned back along that it's a practice at the Vice President's office in Washington that when anybody leaves the position, he or she signs the drawer. So today I signed my drawer. I put my signature here and the years of my occupation of this seat.
Take a picture there, Halsey?
Yeah, take a picture of that.
All right, Halsey. You're in. Thank you.
Okay.
Signing, that's something that will always remind us. Yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be at the Grand Illuminations. As many of you know, I've talked about my Haiti mission trip. I'm going out to Haiti. I'm leaving on the 26th, returning on the 4th, just before we get sworn in. But I'm going out there with living water. We're going to be drilling for water for the Haitian people in regards to just drilling down to the aquifer and making sure they have clean water. So some of the basics that we have in life, you know, they don't have. So hopefully I can make a little bit of a difference out there. And so I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I think it's a time for us all to kind of come together, especially after this election. It's been crazy. I know a lot of family members and people that I know, friends, are not really seeing eye to eye through this election. But I think in Thanksgiving we all just need to come together and enjoy the town that we love. And with that, shop local, get down there, and enjoy. And lastly, I just want to give a little quick commercial for the Bristol Fire Department and the Ladies Auxiliary are announcing their second annual kickoff to Christmas event that will benefit the East Bay Food Pantry and our Community Aid Fund of the Ladies Auxiliary of Bristol Fire Department. The event will be held at Jackie's Galaxy on Saturday, November 26th from 5 to 9:30 p.m. So see if you can get down there. Again, the mission is to feed and clothe the many needy people in the town of Bristol. And it can't happen without you, the residents. So if you have anything, that old sweater, that ugly sweater, whatever you got, put it in a bag, bring it down. It's makes a difference in somebody's life. That's it. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Ms. Perella.
Thank you. Well, I do want to congratulate my colleagues as well on the election. I think everybody's just happy it's over with. It was seemed like the election, not so much our local one, but our national election, presidential race, seemed to go on indefinitely, like maybe close to 2 years, it seems like, and a little too long. So congratulations to all of you. And I'm not sure, Tony, if your race is settled yet or not. I don't think it is. But and I also want to just remind everyone that the holiday prelude to the holidays is coming up this weekend, and that's always a fun and exciting event, particularly on the Friday evening. I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, and I can't believe how quickly this month is flying by. It's been so, with the election and with the Veterans Day the same week, and then Thanksgiving being early, it's just crazy. And then I also just want to extend my sincere best wishes to Halsey on his retirement. We've been bookends for a long time at this council table. And we started way back when I was certainly much younger and Halsey was much younger. And I started on the town council the same year that Halsey started as administrator. And
I think I had some influence on you to run, too, didn't I?
Yeah, and we didn't always disagree, but over the years, we've come to have, I think, a great respect for each other. And there's no question, like, the centerpiece of Halsey's legacy, I believe, are the parks in Bristol. You know, back in that, when he was administrator and the town council working together, pretty much with, you know, one of the first times that open space money was available, I believe, if I remember correctly. And I should also say Lou was also there. He was probably my other bookend at the time. And, you know, we were able to access money and Halsey's vision and implement pretty much all the parks that we have today. And that's such a centerpiece. And certainly the cleanliness of Bristol has always been at the forefront of Halsey. As a matter of fact, I was telling him not long ago that I remember his mother going out and picking up litter and so forth. So I know that that is well ingrained in you and your upbringing. And certainly always could be rely on Halsey's input on every topic, but certainly marine-related topics. So it's certainly going to be missed. We're going to miss you very much and your wisdom and your insight. And thank you very much for all that you've done for Bristol and for the whole community. Thank you, Halsey.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart. Supposed to say over.
I would like to sincerely thank all the residents in the community for once again having a trust and confidence in myself and the elected officials. Congratulations. This is your seat. This is not my seat. So it's an honor just to sit here and be your voice. And that's what I cherish the most and why I do it, for the dedication and the many candidates that step forward to dedicate their time to, fulfill and to serve our community. We should feel very blessed, all of us together, especially now it's a holiday season. Many events have been spoken to, and I just wish the best of luck and enjoy working with the colleagues once again. The grand illumination is December 3rd. And I think one of the best ways to celebrate that is to celebrate it along with Councilman Herreshoff, since he instituted that with the late Dottie Cadero. So we talk about parks and we talk about projects. Councilman Herreshoff, with that idea, it's still going these many years later, so thank you. Your impact on the community just goes beyond. And anyone can take the helm when the seas are calm, but Councilman Herreshoff has taken the helm for his lifetime, whether they be calm, rocky, or around the world. So it's not only impact here in our community of Bristol, it's worldwide. We cherish your family heritage that is a staple in our lovely town of Bristol, with its heritage and history, besides your history and your impact that you had on our community and on these chambers for many years. It was stated years ago, my interaction with Halsey, believe it or not, many moons ago when he was administrator, is we actually negotiated contracts together. And many years later, here we are. I'm proud to say that I had the privilege to serve with you in your tenure before you retired. Most people had made statements that they disagreed with Councilman Herreshoff, and some people were perplexed outside in the community saying, Eddie, you being a Democrat and Halsey a Republican, you both agree on almost everything. And it took me back to last election on his last run and going through debates, and you do your homework, and lo and behold, in the Phoenix, how they just did this last debate on everybody's comments. Not only once, but twice, they stated Councilman Stewart and Councilman Herreshoff agreed on this item. Councilman Stewart and Councilman Herreshoff. So it was even outside the chambers. But you truly are going to be missed. I just wish you the best with your retirement. And it's, whatever the outcome of our administrator, his dedication and service to the town, we wish you the best, because it's been an honor serving with everybody. The holiday preview, please go downtown this weekend, support our local businesses. It's a great weekend to go to the sweet Smackdown at Linden Place at 6 o'clock to get some desserts while you walk through town and do your shopping. And it's the holiday season, so look on the website for Blythewall, Mount Hope Farm, contribute to our local venues. They have such amazing events throughout the holidays, and you should take your family and enjoy what we have to offer here in our town, along with all our departments. I wish everybody and all your families a happy Thanksgiving, along with thank you, Mike Davis and Sergeant Arms Archie Martins for this evening. Everybody who attended here tonight and everyone tuning in at home, thank you once again.
It's your last one. Make it good, okay?
Mr. Harrison.
Well, I first of all like to say that you've all been so generous in your statements that make me feel good. I mean, I've had a lot of people around town stop me and say thank you and all, but I think having it come from the close colleagues, you four counselors, means the most to me, and I appreciate that. And I want to congratulate you on your very good showings in the election. Well deserved. And I think you four plus Andy Tiska should make a strong council. Be sure you don't all agree all the time, because if you all agree all the time, what are you doing here? So, but I think as the chairman and Tim and all of you have said, the good thing about this council in the last few years has been that we're all trying to do what we perceive is the right thing. We may not always be in agreement of what is the right thing, but we pursue that, and we don't have any other purposes than to do the right thing for Bristol. And I also believe, in order to make it work, that the point several of you have made that we can argue, and I've a number of times lost a vote 4-1, but none of us paying attention to that for the next time that comes up, and we're good friends no matter what afterwards. And that's what makes it work in Bristol, which we have not seen in Washington lately, and maybe we won't see it in Washington again lately either, but we hope so. By the way, I just want to mention, because I think a lot of people may not know this, and the viewers will be amused about this, Andy Tiska, who is going to be the next councillor here, came to Bristol because when he was a student at the University of Michigan, he wanted a summer job in naval architecture, which is what he was studying. So I believe he sent 100 letters out to various naval architectural firms around the world, and he only got 2 replies. The one from me was a quickly scribbled postcard, about as many words as I have in the drawer here, which I just wrote. And he came and very politely got a summer job with me, and I didn't treat him very well, but he managed anyway, and since then he's come back to Bristol, because why would anybody want to go any better place than Bristol? And what he's done here is magnificent, to take over a rather broken down boatyard, fix it up, fix Cogswell Farm, and get into all kinds of activities that are beneficial to our citizens. And I think that's the reason I believe that he'll be a very satisfactory addition to this council, and I look forward to all of that. And I'm grateful to so many other people. I mean, all of you have been great to work with, and Tony, I've enjoyed working with you and doing a few negotiations where we came out okay, and greatly admire the police chief, and I thank you for this badge of something I can remember the department by. And so I leave all this with very good feelings that I'll miss it, but it was time for me to move on, and like you say, I'm going to be watching. And my only wish is that you can keep this town of state on even keel, and you can do everything ship-shape and Bristol fashion. Thank you.
Town Administrator agenda items.
This doesn't make it easy to follow, Councilman Hirschhoff. With that, congratulations to all my colleagues, from Lou to the council, and also to Andy for joining the town council. And Halsey, as many of them already stated, many of my colleagues, or our colleagues in government already stated, it certainly was a pleasure to serve with you on the council for the 2 years that I did. I know we had quite a few exchanges, positive exchanges about, things that needed to be done for the town, and it certainly was very helpful. And certainly now, having been the administrator here, and you know what it feels like to sit on this side, certainly, we've been very cordial in all the dealings that we've had to undertake on behalf of the town. So I wish the best. Thank you for all the years of service, to the town of Bristol.
Thank you.
A couple things you already mentioned about the walkabout, the lighting, December 3rd, so I'm not going to elaborate any further on that. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you and your families, as well as to all our residents out there. I wish them the best and have a blessed Thanksgiving. Also, I'd like to remind you that this year's football game is going to be here in Bristol. And our team is doing pretty well. It's doing very well, actually, not pretty well. Doing very well with a record of 7-2. And I know Chief smiles all the time because his son is one of the players, and they're doing extremely well. They actually play on Friday night for, I believe, it's the semifinals against Moses Brown. So it will be a very interesting game. So if you're looking for a little bit of excitement, I know I went to the girls' game, the boys' soccer game, and it was quite interesting to be on the sidelines for a change, and to be in the bleachers, I should say, for a change, not on the sidelines. But it was quite interesting. So if you can make it out there and support it, please do so. Thank you.
Motion would be to convene into executive session pursuant to 4246(5)(a)(5) relative to the lease of real property, the Gladding Azevedo property.
So moved. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everyone.